and we would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for this meddling writer.
Ryder, what'd you do this time?
I don't know, man. I'm just here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cheap Seat Critics podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Geeky Writer.
And I'm Sprinks. And hey, if you're listening from Oak Haven, Massachusetts, lucky you, you can find us on, oh boy, this will date the video. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter and Blue Ski or Blue Sky, Facebook. We have a visual side of things over on YouTube and Rumble. Or if you prefer the audio thing, we have tons of audio formats anywhere you can find a podcast. Thank you for listening there. And we also have a LetterBoxd if you're interested in like averaged out numbers of what we've covered and how they all turn out.
Yeah. Today we are continuing our Scooby-Doo adventures, as it were, into the Witch's Ghost.
The Witch's Ghost.
Yeah.
Season 22, where are you?
Yeah, something like that. I guess we'll start with histories with this movie. I'll go first as I have the shortest. This is the one movie that I probably have heard the most about, but have never seen. I was expecting to have. I think I've seen the characters in this before, but I've never seen it in context and stuff like that. So I might have seen a scene or two, but I pretty much don't have any history watching the movie all at once. So this is my first time. And with that, let's go with Sprinks.
Sweet. So when I was a youngling, I owned Zombie Island and I owned Cyberchase. I did not own Witch's Ghost or Alien Invaders. So I didn't see Witch's Ghost until I was older. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10, opposed to like 5 or 6 when I saw the other ones. Best guess. But it's just one I didn't own, so I didn't see it very often. I've probably only seen Witch's Ghost 5 times, maybe. And the last time I watched it, I couldn't tell you. I can't remember the last time I watched it. But that's about it. Rewatching it is a very... I'm surprised people don't bring it up a lot of, like, it feels like a very October, November feel kind of movie. It's a very autumn vibe.
Lots of browns, pumpkins, turkey.
I mean, they are celebrating Autumn Fest, so it makes sense.
Yeah. But that's my history on it.
Nice. Crimson.
Alrighty. So I don't really remember the first time but it would have been not long after Zombie Island, I think. I mean, Zombie Island was the first one of these VHS movies I saw. And then I think Cyberchase was my second. And then I don't remember between this or Invaders which one would have been the next. But I was probably single digits when I saw this. And I think this is my 4th time watching Witch's Ghost. The Hex Girls, I've listened to all their songs. I've seen them in several iterations of them. I saw the what is it? The Vampire Lord or whatever it was. I don't remember what it was called. Saw that with them in it, stuff like that. I have the Funko Pops of the Hex Girls.
Big fan.
Yeah, and I drew Thorn at one point in my life. So there you go.
Nice. Crimson, I expect to see that art at some point.
Yeah, could I actually have it? I'll put it on the Instagram.
I guess with that, gentlemen, we can move into some facts if you want.
Well, actually, there's one little bit of history that is kind of, if you follow the podcast for a long time now, because it was very early on, you probably already know this, but we've also covered Mystery Incorporated, the YouTube short, and in that has the Hex Girls and a mention of Ben Ravencroft.
Yep.
So in some funny way, this is writer's second introduction to those characters.
Which is just interesting to think about, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Because I feel like the Hex Girls are pretty iconic Scooby-Doo characters.
It is interesting. Because I did look it up. This is their first canonical appearance in this film. So it was weird to be introduced to them, I guess, in Mystery Incorporated.
I suppose so. Just a different
Yeah, it's a different
iteration of them.
introduction, but I could see why they became so popular as a part of Scooby Doo lore because of this film, though.
Yeah, they're just a scary version of Josie and the Pussycats.
Let's not drag Riverdale into this.
I was talking about just comic line, but okay.
uh, that might be fair. Uh, I don't have a budget for this one, surprisingly. Couldn't find it, but the release date was October 5th, 1999. Uh, which is really fits in the October theme that you were speaking to, Springs. Um, the music is by Luis Fabre. Uh, I know I pronounced that wrong, but uh, I don't know, just some funny names, I guess. uh, Ben Ravencroft is not really all that shockingly based off of the horror author Stephen King, who also lives in Maine and had a somewhat similar appearance when he was younger. Uh, the character's name Ben Ravencroft is also suggestive of H.P. Lovecraft, one of King's influences, who lived in Rhode Island. Uh, and Yeah, so that it's interesting to think about because I definitely can see some of the Stephen King uh, references, I guess, coming through for Ben Ravencroft.
Same. Yeah. It's also interesting that writer came with the author fact.
It shouldn't be as surprising.
No, no,
This movie marks the first time Scooby Doo shows a disliking towards bones.
no.
Well, the first one, or Zombie Island, first one where he doesn't like cats. This one, first one where he's allergic to bones. So I think is what Shaggy said.
Yeah, which is weird. I don't remember him having an issue with bones in what I was used to, but I guess it makes sense since I'm used to the earlier stuff. This is the only time most of the gang, and particularly Fred, hate being called meddling kids. Uh, at least so far in the lore. Interesting to
Yeah,
think
by the
about.
'90s, think it comes up more prevalent in the 2000s stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because at that point, obviously, they're growing up and stuff like that. But it's interesting to think that I guess this is where they started kind of poking fun, I guess, at what they were always called.
Yeah.
Billy West did not reprise his role as Shaggy Rogers from Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. The reason being is West needed time for his roles as Philip J. Fry, Professor Farnsworth, and Dr. John Zoidenberg on Futurama.
That's true.
Well, that was successful.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was Scott Ines, is it? The guy who plays Scooby also voiced Shaggy, I think.
Yeah, the role went to Scott Ines. The role went to Scott Ines, though, he was thinking about replacing West with Danny Cooksey, Rob Paulson, Jeff Bennett, Tom Kenny, and D. Bradley Baker.
Tom Kenny?
Yeah.
That'd been weird.
Is that SpongeBob?
Yeah.
Hey, I got a name right.
And the last fact that I have, which is more of a personal one for me, I've now added some Hex Girls music to my playlist.
This
Hey.
fact. There's some really good ones on there.
Yeah, it's true. I liked both of them. Or at least both of them in this film, so those ones I definitely added. Uh,
Mm.
and that is all the facts I have. Do either of you gentlemen have anything you would like to throw in?
Um, not that I can think of. No, I didn't have any.
The only one I had was the Stephen King one, which was the one you already said. Nope.
All right, then we will jump right into the coverage. Today we're going to be going a popcorn structure. As you cannot tell, audience, my nose is congested, and we will be starting with Crimson.
Starting with Crimson. Oh no. All right. So let's start at a weird little animation thing. It was a because I pointed out some in Zombie Island, and there was one I saw here. I didn't see as many in this as Zombie Island, but at 7 minutes and 3 seconds, the car that's driving to Oak Haven, not Oakland, Oak Haven, uh, goes off the screen and gets cropped out before it reaches the end of the screen. And I found that to be interesting.
The car that Ravencroft is driving?
Yeah, the one that was in front of the mystery machine. It gets cropped off before it hits the edge of the screen.
I remember that. I wrote that one down. I think you're correct.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a. Uh, I'll go next because I got a similar kind of tiny bit of little. I guess I would have called it an error. I think most of the voice acting is pretty stellar in this film, except for one line from Ben Ravencroft, which is when he's hoisting Velma up into the barn shed. There was one line there that I think that was, I guess, badly voice acted.
By Ravencroft or Velma?
Ravencroft.
Hmm. Doesn't really stand out. I don't remember.
I
Stood
couldn't
out to
tell.
me,
He
but
was trying to, I guess, kind of under stress or whatever, or the weight of Velma. So I guess that could have been used to affect the voice coming across. But
yeah, I think that's what he tried to do. It didn't come across as natural to me, which is it's just fine. Like I said, in a movie that I think is really, really well done, one or two lines slipping through, I'm usually okay with.
okay, yeah, I didn't catch it.
Spriggs?
Ooh, that's me. I'll go back to the fact you had about the bone thing. Cause Shaggy says that, and Scooby has like a ham leg in his hand, and the bone at the end he puts aside and eats the ham through like the side of the ham to cause a hole. But there's a shot where before Scooby does that, you can see the ham bone on top, like in the center of the ham leg. And Scooby puts the whole thing in his mouth and takes it out, and all that's left is the little bone. So he did eat a bone. So I saw it
Yes.
as contradicting what Shaggy said.
I'm in agreement with that. I take issue because that's character contradictions. Even if it's minor, it's still a character contradiction.
Yeah, because then it really questions why that line was used.
uh, Crimson?
Well, it's probably less the line issue and more the art direction. The people that were in charge of doing the whole uh, diner bit probably didn't consider the line when doing it.
Oh, so it was just a
Uh,
behind the scenes false or
There's probably a
miscommunication.
communication between departments. Yeah, that's probably what it was. It's usually you're designated a project and you don't read the whole script. So whoever did the drawings probably didn't read the beginning part of the script and heard the bone
and,
line.
and somehow in that conversation, Crimson, you did my respect for Lord of the Rings go even higher. Thank you for that. I always appreciate when that happens.
Ah,
They
no problem, I guess.
Yeah, it's in Lord of the Rings is infamous because all they did was communicate between departments. That's like the base thing they did for a year before they even started writing the scripts and filming.
Yeah, gotta tighten up all those gears, make it
Uh,
all work.
yeah. Um. I guess I'll just jump to I guess the more funny personal one. I've also been told I look like Ben Ravencroft quite a bit throughout my life. So when I first saw him, I finally had the whole like, oh, I get it now kind of moment.
Oh, you're doing a bang up job here with your PNG tuber.
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, I didn't know that this is what he looked like, really.
Yeah,
But I see it
fitting
now.
image.
I get why I'm compared to him being a writer. I have the same facial hair, same hair. Uh,
Same physique,
You wear
same everything.
glasses.
I do wear glasses.
You jump on rooftops.
You shoot
Uh,
magic out of your hands.
I have jumped on rooftops. I have thrown fire out of my hands before. That was fun.
There you go.
It all lines up.
Yeah, it's true.
One and the same.
So, Ben Ravencroft? Am I? Maybe. Maybe I lost my egomania when I came back from breaking out of the book.
Has a crush on Velma, best girl apparently. I mean,
I've always, look, now I get it. So like my type is somewhere between Velma and Hex Girl. So yeah, it tracks.
oh boy.
Oh boy,
Uh,
Sphinx.
Crimson, there's something in the future you and I know about. Then,
Yeah.
I can't wait for that to
oh
be
yeah,
butchered.
It'll be an interesting
jinkies.
one. Yeah, exactly.
I I feel like I need to remind you that I'm not Ben Ravencroft, just in case that's going to be an issue
Oh
going
no,
forward.
no, no, that's fine. That's fine. Just what you said, the in between thing. You'll find out later. Audience, you might know what we're talking about, but writer will find out later.
Well, that's going to be something to look forward to then.
Um, Something I found interesting, and this is a great question for both of you because you could see it on different sides. Writer being the writer aspect of the choice of it, and then Crimson you with the animation or the behind the scenes thing. The beginning credits have who the film is written by, and there's 4 people credited for it. But I found it was interesting that the first 2, the and is the and symbol, and then after the second name, it's actually the word and then between the third and fourth credit, it's the symbol again. And I don't know if that's just a creative choice to look that way, but I thought it was interesting that it wasn't all the same.
You got a
Uh,
timestamp for that?
Well, it
Uh,
sounds like the opening.
I don't. It's at the
Um,
very opening, kind of like right after you get into the museum, and you're going down. I think like the T-Rex skeleton.
is
Okay,
there a
looking at
composition
it.
with them?
All right, I'm looking at it now. Genuinely, I think it's just a style choice because it makes it look justified. What I mean by justified is if you ever justified your documents, it makes it look even on both sides.
A little symmetrical.
Yeah, that would be my guess for why they chose to do that visually.
Okay.
I don't have. There's really no grammatical reason why they wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the composition because it would look nicer in certain moments to do the symbol or spell out and. Like if you started a line with and, that probably looks better than starting a line with the and symbol. But
Yeah.
I don't have what's up currently,
Yeah, I
so
think it's the first 2 names with the symbol in between, and then the second line just has and then the third line has the third and fourth name with the symbol in between.
okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was picturing. And yeah, it's more of a composition. It just looks nicer.
Okay.
All right, I will jump to I guess fairly early on. We get kind of an opening similar to the first or Zombie Island of like your standard mystery gang mystery solving uh to set up and establish the film here. Obviously there's more layers to it revealed at the end that Ravencroft set it all up. But a question I had written down, and it doesn't exactly answer it with the ending, is were they going to kill the professor guy when they swung the axe and sword at him?
Probably.
Because they followed through. It wasn't like they were going to stop because they didn't want to kill the guy.
No, they wanted to
If
kill the guy.
Scooby and they would have just killed the guy.
Yeah. The only defense I have of this is that they swung really, really slowly.
Suppose that's also true.
Perhaps.
So like they were giving him like years to dodge, but at some point, it's like Austin Powers. It's on you. You have to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good scene there.
Uh,
Yeah, and then I
Um,
was just wondering, like, where did the mannequins go when they were all dressed up?
oh,
Going in
I couldn't
there.
tell you.
it's weird. I thought it was weird that the gang was dressed up at all in disguises. It's a cool and clever, but I didn't quite understand why they did that.
Surveillance.
Yeah, I guess just in hide in plain sight
I
kind
mean,
of
Ben
work. But
Ravencroft was just hiding behind a tapestry. I don't
oh,
know.
that
That was
yeah,
his plan,
that was
though.
him. He
That
wasn't in
was
on what the gang was doing.
That's true. Uh,
I didn't understand why though. The curator looked at Shaggy and Scooby and didn't notice a difference, like what it probably would have looked like before.
yes, I wrote that down too. I was like, "You're the curator of the museum. Wouldn't you notice these differences?" Like, no offense, I think the gang look a little bit better than the mannequins that would normally
probably.
be there dressed up.
They probably look
I mean,
real.
yeah. I mean, then again, it could be like wax figures, but I still would think the gang would look more alive.
Yeah, I don't think this is Madame. Was it Madame Tussauds?
Madame Tussauds from what?
The wax museum in
Oh,
Hollywood.
the name of the museum. Yeah, yeah. Where they screwed up the rock.
Wow.
That's funny. Yeah.
I
Um,
do like. Uh,
I was just gonna say, unfortunately, there's only to Crimson and the handful of two people who understand this reference. But the rendition of the song at the beginning of the theme, definitely different from Zombie Island. But I just couldn't shake that it felt like it was being done by the lead singer of Speed Limit.
You think there's two people out there that get that? That aren't you and me?
Yeah,
Um,
maybe
I mean,
I don't really get those vibes.
it's
But
a country bar singer.
yeah, I mean, it's Billy Ray Cyrus, so this
Oh,
is it.
honestly, it's Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yes.
Oh,
oh, cool. Didn't know that.
I guess he sounds well. Yeah, country bar singer. I guess he kind of sounds like that.
Yeah, suppose so.
And since we're on the topic of the song, didn't like it.
I didn't like it as much as Zombie Islands.
I like Zombie Islands much better.
I agree. I agree.
I don't know, just the
um,
southern drawl, or I guess to it in the
yeah,
setting too. It's not like they were in a western part of the museum or anything. It just didn't clash well. I think.
yeah. I get why they're doing it. Like they're gonna. I get the impression now they're gonna do renditions, different renditions of that classic theme song at the start of every movie, or at least the animated ones. Um, and comparing this one to the last one, I think the last one was. I enjoyed the last one a bit more. This one was again, I think, too country for me.
Crimson, where do you weigh?
Oh, I like Zombie Island more.
Oh,
The
okay,
song in that one. This one was wasn't bad, but
I agree. Yeah, yeah. For me, if I had to give it a rating, 5.5.
mm.
There is something I'll point out, and I guess we'll hit to the audience. It'll be an overarching question at the end. At least that's what writer started before Peek Behind the Curtain told us. But I just want to point out that Fred has brown eyes in this movie and not blue.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Uh,
I think Daphne's eyes are a little different as
yeah.
well.
A little bit on that subject. The newspaper Ben Ravencroft was
Yeah,
reading regarding the moat monster
that's the big one.
is yeah.
I feel like we should just talk about it at
No,
this
we
point.
can.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's ask the question. Is this movie a direct sequel to Zombie Island?
Uh, I'm
Sphinx is
l-
going.
I'm leaning yes, but I'm not sold.
I'm leaning no. Um,
Uh,
my
I
reason will
no
go
go.
after what writer's going to say.
No, no. I'm the host. You go.
Oh,
Well,
you got
I want to
hosted.
hear your opinion first. If
No,
you think
you're
it is
going.
very similar.
Sorry.
Host
You're
I
card.
going.
don't want to give my. I don't want my
Too
explanation
Host
to
late.
take
You're
up your.
going.
card.
I want to hear your opinion
Host
first, and then I'll
card.
give my reason.
You're ignoring the host card. I'm gonna kick you off the pod. Go.
Oh,
Gosh. All right. So Ravencroft sees the newspaper The Moat Monster, which we see in the beginning of Zombie Island, and then they solve mystery, and then there's a time jump where the gang split up. If he sees it in the newspaper, that means it's relevant news, and he kicks into action, getting the gang to uh, Oakhaven. So I
Oh.
would think it would have to be relatively recent after the Mo Monster incident, which would be in between the time of that and the gang getting back
So you're
together.
hinting this one's a prequel.
Yeah. Well, in between, I guess, Zombie Island's time jump area.
Uh, I actually quite like the theory. I was, funny enough, leaning maybe, and by maybe I mean like 55-45 towards yes, because I think this film benefits from being in the same universe as Zombie Island. Uh, they keep a. I forgot to. I need to scroll through my notes, but there was a character trait I think for a couple of them that I think you benefit from having seen Zombie Island and carry those character traits through a bit.
Well, I also believe the magic used, whether or not it's cat god influenced, but the sound effects and lighting is the exact same from Zombie Island that Ravencroft uses.
Is it? I feel like this green is a darker green than the Resurrection green lightning things.
Well, that plays into a worst part of this movie for me is that it didn't do as good as shading or I guess slash lighting in this movie as it Zombie Island did. I think the
This one
coloring in this movie is a
looked
lot
lesser budget.
duller. Yeah. The first one, like in dusk or night or anything, the colors are all changed of the characters. They're darker, shifted. This one, especially at the end when Daphne, Fred, and Velma are in that fire ring, they're the exact same colors.
This this is just a theory because there's nothing backing it, but Zombie Island was supposed to be theatrical, and the fact was they had a $50 million budget, right? Uh, so they planned theatrical quality for this one since we have no budget to go off of as well. They probably lowered the budget because it wasn't planned to be theatrically released.
Hence why the animation's a bit simpler, maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest issue with the animation in this, and if you watch it again, I guess you, unless you caught it the first time, a lot of the coloring is out of the lines, um, which was kind of annoying me. Uh, I'll send one to the Discord and then through the Instagram and socials, obviously. But there was one egregious one with Fred that was just there was so much color outside the lines. Uh, his shoulder, his pants, his arms. It was just out of the line coloring, which was a bit egregious, and it was pretty prevalent throughout this movie.
Uh,
Looking at what you just showed, sorry, YouTube and Rumble.
They'll be on
That's not there.
socials.
It'll be on socials. But seeing what I see what you mean. It's a lot fainter than I thought it would be, but I see, especially in his forearm. I see it.
yeah, it definitely shows, I guess, the drop in budget, I guess, since they now had a better idea of what they were going to be doing with these sorts of films,
Allegedly,
allegedly.
because we don't know what the budget is.
Springs.
Okay, let's see here. Um, I looked up Oakhaven. Oakhaven is a fictional place. It doesn't exist.
Great name of a town, though.
It is
Well,
pretty
you're
cool.
a Haven fan. However, Oakhaven is the name of a campground in Wales, Massachusetts.
That's
Mm,
cool.
nice,
Um,
nice research.
a bit of character stuff. I think it's when they run into the witch for the first time, and they're running away. Or Scooby and Shaggy are running away from the witch, and the witch is throwing
The fake
fireballs. Yada
witch or
yada.
the real witch?
The fake witch.
Okay.
The green. For all intents and purposes, I'm gonna refer to
Should we say the witch and the
the
ghost?
I'm gonna refer to the witch as the witch, and I'm gonna refer to the ghost as Sarah.
Okay.
I don't.
All right,
Uh,
I'll try to adhere to that.
yeah, I'll try to say Sarah Ravencroft or Ghost specifically, but the witch, uh, the green one that's used by the town. When they first run into her and they run, I like that when they turn the corner, they run into the gang. They're not mad at being run into. They just immediately accept that something's wrong because it's their friends. And it's the tiny stuff like that that really that I always liked about the gang of Scooby Doo.
They're just
I
used
mean,
to it.
They
the
hang out all
implicit
the time.
yeah, exactly, the implicit trust that they have in each other, and that the fact they're just used to it. They would be used to Shaggy and Scooby, running into them because they run into each other all the time. Funny enough, when on missions.
Yeah, they pretty much live in that van.
Yeah, kind of. They don't go anywhere without the mystery machine.
Uh, yeah, I guess in regards to the witch, something I think they did do very well with the witch is the explanation at the end. Scooby Doo explanations for the monsters are usually fine, like, oh, it's a projector, whatever, someone in costume. This like cherry picker machine
It
that doesn't make any sense.
it makes sense, but it doesn't
You would see
show.
it.
Yeah, it doesn't show or explain how it's hidden. Because if the witch is in the cherry picker basket, it it doesn't work. But
Well,
if
Yeah,
the
there's
tree
like,
line got cut because the arm of the cherry picker cut it
yeah,
off,
I just
so
wish
you
there
would see
was.
it.
I wish there was something in the basket, like uh, not a wire, but like a mount in it that's invisible
yeah.
or like clear to hold the witch up, so it can't be seen from the angles where the witch is flying.
Even if, yeah, yeah, things that they could have done to at least patch this, because I'm kind of in agreement with Crimson. Even with my patchworks, there's still the obvious problem. You would still fucking hear it. Um,
Oh, a
Yeah,
car revving?
that's
Yeah.
yeah. They could have painted the top of it black. They could have showed wires hanging off of it and stuff like that to show that it was all connected to that particular spot, and that would have helped. But even then, it's a hard sell because this witch is flying through the air, and uh,
I mean, that's
I don't think
true.
I
The
don't
introduction
think
where
the
the witch
truck.
is in front of the moon. There's no
in
way the
front of the
cherry
moon.
picker's that high.
Yeah, I don't think the truck could go fast enough to fling somebody around in a costume.
Well, I mean, it's keeping up with Shaggy and Scooby, so however fast they can be, which I doubt they're faster than a car, truck.
And they got cartoon powers.
Well, so that logic could leap into the vehicles, though, too. You can say
Well,
like
Daphne
the
even
vehicle
says it
has
at the
cartoon
end.
logic.
She goes, Shaggy and Scooby are the runners. And from Zombie Island, if they're connected, the whole like last bit of that movie, they're just running the whole time.
Yeah, I like funny reminding me another one of my points. I like that they play into the fact that they're very very voracious eaters because of the fact they run everywhere because they run off all the food that they stayed.
Yeah.
I like how it didn't just disappear. They actually acknowledged they ran off. As crazy as it is, but it is a
Oh yeah,
cartoon. Uh,
it is cartoon logic for sure, but I like that's the story in canon reason as to why they eat so much.
Barry Allen metabolism.
Yeah.
Certainly comes across that way, yeah.
Uh, I
Uh,
noticed an animation thing that I'm guessing Crimson probably also picked on, hopefully. But when Velma's riding with Ravencroft in his car when they're on the highway, Ravencroft doesn't smoothly move. He pops his position at 650 times
Yeah,
down. But it wasn't something
yeah,
like far away kind of thing where it's like a small, like when the car is driving away, like less and less details on it. This is pretty close to the frame.
mhm. Yeah. I mean, I think it just lends to more of the budget. I wish we knew how much because it does feel like a drastic hit from Zombie Island.
Yeah. Possibly not 50 million.
I know I'm probably going. I would guess like 10, but
10
I don't
million?
know. That would be my guess.
yeah. I said I don't know. Don't have a budget listed, so I'll probably do some more research maybe for a recap. But I didn't find any one of my initial search.
That's right. Uh, let's see. Something else that bugged me was the belt buckle in air quotes. One, it's kind of convenient, but two, it's not to the book. That the book is not the same from the painting. So what was that?
It's 400 years old. It's rusted, dude.
It it led to the book, even though it wasn't part of the book.
It fell off. I don't. It's the book in the mural is not the book she has, but I don't know if
Correct.
that's just
But that led to the actual book. How?
yes. Well, I think
I feel like
it's
that's a
just.
huge oversight.
I think it's just a convenience, but the buckle is it. It is the book, right? That's the lock on the book, or was it like connected to the chest?
It
Because I'm
had that
thinking,
stripe pattern on it, same as the book in the
okay, so it's
painting.
to the book. I think the mural is a cover up. Like it's not all real. Otherwise, the book wouldn't look like that.
It's part of Ben Ravencroft's just story.
Yeah,
I could sort of see that. Uh, I also wrote that on my notes. Once again, animals driving the plot when it comes to the gopher.
yeah.
Yeah, like the cats in
Scooby
Long Island.
not liking animals.
Yep. This one's less egregious than the cats to me, but I still put it down as this is just they're using other animals as a plot device. And I'm getting the impression this will be a pattern going forward in the animated films.
Possibly.
Um,
Scooby also redoes the dog wear joke. I think twice in this
yeah.
movie.
hmm I don't really remember that being a thing in the shows, but it's been a while since I've seen the shows.
I don't recall it being the shows.
Yeah, not sure.
Guess I'll go to another point. The um, butter turner and Scooby picks it up and starts rocking out with it. That is the music is for the audience sake. There is no music playing,
Well,
Yes.
so I
he's
think
just
it's a
playing
very
air
awkward
guitar.
moment.
He's just
Well, I
playing air
mean,
guitar. That's
True,
I
but
think
it's
I don't have
disrupting.
an issue with it. It's Scooby, of course it's disrupting.
and the audience is enjoying. They're laughing at a dog doing a Great Dane doing air guitar. I think that's would be worthy of laughter in any case.
You brought it up, and I thought you were going to bring up the issue I had with it, which was the just the strength of Scooby for that. Those aren't light, the butter
No,
churning buckets
No,
with the
they
butter
are
in
not.
it. Um, so that was my thing. Like, oh wow, Scooby's really strong here.
Well,
Well,
Scooby
you
is a
can be cartoon logic, so that would be my pass on it. But that was my note. Is like, oh, Scooby's strong here.
I agree. I like this. It's more of a writing thing. I like that this film does its exposition fairly decently, in the sense of it's always character oriented. So like we get a fair bit of exposition from the mayor interacting with Ben Ravencroft, and they share their concerns. It's a little on the nose, but it's very very quick because it's a short movie, and I like the efficiency of the writing. I think.
okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, I feel Ravencroft like watching it as a kid. I would guess because I don't, like I said, I don't really remember. Um, I could see kids getting fooled by Ravencroft because he's not overtly like the secret bad guy. I feel like they did a decent enough job to. The only thing really hinting at him being the bad guy is the obsession with the book, and that's you don't have the info of what the book is at that point yet.
Also, the massive question of what the heck is he doing in a museum after hours?
Well, yeah, but kids aren't going to think that.
That's his
I
Um,
mean,
introduction.
yeah, but the gang is there, so like because the heroes are doing it, the kids are normally going to attribute that to what the heroes are doing.
Ravencroft even explained his reason to being there. He was doing research and thought the guards or the guys were sketchy, so he investigated. That was his reason. Um, so I think they did decent with Ravencroft's twist villain reveal um, for the target audience, anyways.
Yeah, then
I
he
agree.
goes full blown psycho.
Oh yeah, he gets cranked to 11.
That's
Yeah,
where I think the
he
budget.
was keeping it in.
I think that's where the budget of the animation kind of kicks in a little during all the
Yeah,
Ravencroft uttering spells with the book and everything. He's got more shadowing and detailing, and
hair's moving.
yeah,
I agree. Think I like Ben Ravencroft's plan mostly. Uh, the idea that he is because he's a horror. The idea is that he's a horror writer, right? And then he also likes the work that the gang does because they're, as he puts it, they're essentially in the same field, and he realizes that they could help him uh, find the book that he's been after for a while. So I think his plan, it makes sense to me. I think there's a couple loose bits. He's very lucky that the gang took notice of his uh, plan, which kind of recontextualizes the museum bit at the beginning. Um, but I think it's a plan that makes sense. Like it doesn't have that many holes in it.
M- My biggest issue with it was Velma's retort once he spilled out his whole plan that he did was because he would know we wouldn't help him if he was after the book. Like, what? Why wouldn't you? What?
Yeah, that I agree. That didn't help. That
yeah.
made no sense.
Why wouldn't you help with
I
that?
mean, they were kind
Even
of
if he said it was the
helping.
normal book, or if it was a spell book, why would that still be a no? Because as of right now, presumably they don't know magic's real.
Yeah,
So I I thought that was kind of dumb by Velma, kind of grandstanding herself. We would never have helped you anyways.
Yeah,
I see that,
I think
especially if
I
all
think
the smart moves she does beforehand.
it might also be that Velma is just being defensive because at that point they all feel used.
And that would be the
Yeah,
best
but
faith.
I think her so
Yeah,
more so than others because of the uh
Connection with them.
yeah, not a romantic necessarily, but just a relationship build.
yeah. So yeah, that's very. I agree. That's kind of what I think is going through her head at that point. And that is my one complaint with the scene too, is I didn't like Velma's retort. I don't really put that on Ravencroft. I put that on her.
I guess another thing I liked about Ravencroft is I do like how he's pretty prevalent in this. He's not just there in the beginning and there at the end. He's actually sticking around with the gang and doing stuff.
Yeah, and he's he sticks his neck out a couple times too, which I guess he's really selling uh his role of not being an egomaniac.
Yeah, his innocence.
Uh,
Well, probably at
yeah,
some level, he's also curious what's going on with this witch thing, because he wasn't
that's
involved
true.
with the witch. We don't know how early he figured it out. It was the town. Maybe he figured it out immediately. Who knows? But
Ooh, that could play into it. Do you
I'm
think
sure there was an element
Ravencroft's
of him
first
figuring
thought
it.
of what's happening is
It's
someone found the book and summoned Sarah?
ooh, that's kind of one of my interpretations was like a retroactively, like when I was looking back at my film notes, I'm like that could have been something he was thinking about and why he was so
Defensive against the
in,
mayor?
defensive against the mayor because like if they had found the book they could be using this, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or that's why he's invested in trying to figure it out because he wants to know if someone else had already found the book.
Hmm.
And
Possibly.
possibly, I mean, he made it sound like he's part of the bloodline, so he can do it. Like, but I don't know.
I think there's a
Could be.
chance being when he does find the book, how, 180 swap he goes. I think he might be a little more focused then on the mayor to see if he's lying about having
Yeah,
the book
that
of
could.
like how much power. And I think he would be more fixated on sticking to that than following the gain around.
Yeah. And but is to kind of make a counterpoint to you, Crimson. Any person who's part Wiccan apparently can use the book, so it doesn't necessarily need to be him.
Yeah, as long
Yeah,
as
but how
you're,
many people are part Wiccan
I don't
that
know.
he would be concerned about?
Thorn was 1/16th.
Yeah,
She's the only other Wiccan that we're told about. I don't know about anybody else.
one semi-confirmed, well, confirmed semi-Wiccan. 'Wiccan. Yeah. which is a little convenient.
That's a little convenient. Yeah.
I guess would be
Uh,
on her mother's side because the dad didn't really. We didn't get anything on the dad being part Wiccan.
the dad was just trying to raise his daughter's brand a bit with the witch, which is
Yeah.
kind of wholesome in a way, but
Mhm.
uh, Crimson, you got a point you want to jump to?
All right. I wasn't the biggest fan of Sarah being able to be physically touched. I'm fine with her touching stuff because that's kind of like a standard ghost thing. Like ghosts can choose to touch stuff, but her getting affected by the water in the bucket kind of bothered me.
I
Mhm.
uh,
I
I think
think,
they kept it mostly consistent.
yeah, I think they do it pretty well that she can't like phase through things or things phase through her. I think they really solidified that she's solid.
Yeah, I think because of that, I was okay with it because I was keeping an eye out for that to see if they were going to keep because whenever there's a ghost in cartoons, they're always inconsistent sometimes with the physics. I think they kept it fairly consistent. The fact that she's actually there and solid.
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm thinking. I guess I don't think she did go through anything.
I mean, at the part where they run through the building and open the door, and she's just standing there to close the door on her. She doesn't phase through the wall, or why even bother with the door?
Yeah, I was actually annoyed with the fact that she wasn't phasing through the door and stuff like that until I realized that she was actually solid. I'm like, oh, okay, this is not a problem anymore. You know?
Yeah, it's not as cool, but it's established that's something she can't do.
Yeah, that is the rule around how the magic for her works for her existence.
Yeah.
So I was fine with it.
However, she can stretch her arm like Mr. Fantastic, and she only does it once.
I She is an issue in of herself because of her power levels and how incompetent she
Yes,
is with her powers.
yes, that to me is different than her being solid and not or incorporeal.
Yeah.
I do think her powers are consistent, but I do like the consistency of the fact that she's solid. Like they made sure to keep that consistent, which is nice. But I agree. Yes, it's weird that she stretched her hand for Mister Fantastic and didn't continue to do that.
Yeah, because she's just flying and not catching people. She could have done both. Or maybe she can't. I don't know. I do like,
Uh,
though, Shaggy's logic is Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
mhm.
makes sense. That's what everybody would go to. It'd be a famous movie.
Was that a Warner Brothers owned property?
I
I
don't
have
know.
no idea.
It was MGM Studios, but I don't know if it's a Warner Brothers connection. But
Wizard of Oz is a play first, right?
It was
it was a
a
book.
book.
Okay.
There have been plays
It's
of
been.
it, but
I know we talked about that way back when we covered Wizard of Oz. I just don't remember what was said.
Check out our coverage of the Wizard of Oz.
I what do we think of Scooby following the mayor around town, or
oh,
Scooby and
Scooby and
Shaggy?
Shaggy,
Yeah, they when they're following the mayor around town.
better than Fred and Daphne following Thorn. At least Shaggy and Scooby are creative. I mean, Cartoon Logic, they have all these props and outfit changes and all these things, but at least they're using it to stay hidden.
I complimented the mayor. I'm like, this guy's like a spy. All right. I mean, he just senses that he's being followed. He has no
Yeah,
evidence until he sees the shadows later.
yeah.
But
I mean, I chalk it down to him being paranoid, especially since we find out he's like he and all the townspeople he's actually visiting are helping him on this conspiracy.
Yeah,
a conspiracy. Something I think would have been a nice little joke is when they were in the bush, if he turned around and they were stuck in the middle of the road or on the sidewalk or something in the bush. It's like, huh, oh, weird bush. I don't know.
Funny joke, maybe.
Funny little
I
kids joke. Eh,
mm,
They didn't really do anything with the
I
bush.
think that's a double bladed sword kind of thing. Then
I mean, it would make him look dumb, but the mayor's already kind of not smart. So
I guess so.
Uh, okay. Why is the mayor not smart? I'm curious to hear your reasoning. I don't. It's not that I probably agree with you. I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
I guess when I say smart, I mean his capability of um, not being obvious. with his face and stuff and how he acts. He's
Oh,
a bad actor, I
just
guess.
sneaking around and
Well, when Velma's like, "I'm one clue away." Oh, I'll help you with whatever you want. I'm like, really? A little kicked on thick here, guys.
I think we'll leave
So
town.
I
Oh,
guess,
okay.
yes, I guess his acting is the dumb part of him. I guess.
all right, fair enough. So yeah, I guess I agree with that. That would be what I agree with. Spricks.
All right. This is, I think, the first film on the pod that we're covering that touches this, but it
That'd be
contains
crazy.
one of my least favorite tropes in any media. And I don't know why it gets under my skin so much, but I just eye roll and find it annoying. And it's anything to do with the Salem witch trials. I
It's not really a trope.
it's just I just think it's kind of petty or just kind of like a lame excuse to go with something rather than something new or different.
Well, I'll make it
It
better
just
for you.
annoys me.
The events happened in 1657, but the Salem witch trials happened in the 1690s. So this was before the witch trials. So there you go.
No, it's fine, but Velma still brings it up. It's
Yeah, but
compared,
it's
but
not
not
relevant to anything.
direct. Yeah.
Uh, you're annoyed by the fact it was brought up at all?
It's just an eye roll for me.
Yeah, that it's a reference that's for general audiences. That's what that's for. Because that's the famous one that everybody knows. Everyone has heard about the Salem witch trials. Uh, that's the tool of why it's there. Um, if they wanted to invent something for their universe, they would have to add a lot more context. If that makes sense. So, like,
Yeah.
if they're gonna say, I don't know, the witch trials of Coolsville in 1650 or whatever, they'd have to explain the backstory of that on top of that because it's a fictional town, you know.
Yeah. The connection in
So
world.
yeah, so I recognize your annoyance. I also understand why they just kept it simplified to the witch trials.
Oh no, I think that's fine. The simplification of just Velma using it, like saying an example for an audience to get like a better understanding of what the connection to like Sarah and the 1600s is going on, and um, for more familiarity to it. But just to me, it's just anything Salem witch trial is just like, ugh. I don't know why. I just think it's like a lame excuse to give an answer to something.
Uh, I don't know if it's lame, but
For me, it is. It's just if following something and there's like magic or mystery and all these like twists and
oh,
turns of what it could be,
okay.
and then the answer at the end, it's like I got it. I know what you are. You're from the Salem witch trials, and I just go, come on. It just annoys me every
Uh,
time.
okay. Well, at least it's not used as a grand reveal then. You know,
Yeah.
because here it's used as an explanation for something, like as if something it could be, but they aren't sure.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
for
Don't
me,
don't get me for wrong. My subjectivity or whatever does not get tanked or whatever because it's just brought up. It's not a huge plot point. It's not a plot point at all. It's just something to familiarize. So I just wanted to bring it up because it's the first one we've covered that's touched on it.
yeah. So that's why I'm asking questions. So like, if it was used as a grand reveal, like as an explanation, oh, it's because you're a witch from the Salem witch trials.
Yeah,
Like
it would
that's
annoy
what
me.
you take an issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be like this is now like you've lost points having done that and made you that your grand reveal in I guess as far as your subjectivity is concerned. But here it's used as an explanation which would be not as bad, but it's still an annoyance.
Well, would the release date be a factor at all, Springs?
Of 1999.
Because a lot of the stuff I'm sure you're referencing of the media you've encountered with the witch trials is more 2000s, 2010s, 2020s even. Uh, but this was the 90s. The witch trials being the excuse to use witches wasn't that prevalent of a thing yet. Because I agree
No,
with you. I feel like every time a witch is brought up in anything, it's witch trials. Salem witch
I
trials.
think the only excuse I would give to that is if a fact or something was found out of the first instance of that being used in a source of media. I guess other than a book, but
So it's only allowed once. The first time.
I think for
That's all
me,
the Witch Trials is allowed.
I think for me to excuse it as a annoyance on my subjectivity, just be like, okay, this was the first time ever, kind of thing. A little more awe than eye roll. But like after just like more and more things I watch, no matter like, I just go, come on. It's just a me
Okay.
thing though.
That's all right.
All right. Crimson.
Uh, thing I didn't really enjoy subjectively was Velma in this. I felt like she took on too many roles of the gang here. She was the smart solver, which is usually her niche. She was also the planner for the Hex Girl trap, which is usually Fred's
Fred.
domain. She helped fight the pumpkins, which would usually be Fred. um, Daphne was kind of just sidelined in this to me, other than her just gushing over Fred or getting jealous over Thorn. Uh, so I know Velma's propped up because her connection with Ravencroft, but I felt like they did too much with her.
Funny enough, I kind of have the same complaint, but mine's more so on Fred. That Fred's underutilized.
Yeah, his jobs were taken away and given to Velma.
Yeah, I'm more annoyed over that matter than that Velma did it, because I think Velma's totally capable of doing it. But Velma just being like, "Yeah, you want to be with Daphne, huh? All right, you two go ahead."
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with both of what you said. So,
I mean, they're kind of hand in hand.
I do think they underutilized the gang quite a bit because even the at the end where Velma was pretending to fall over, that could have been Daphne playing into her like that pretty girl trope pretending to fall for somebody, you know.
That's
Hmm.
true. Funny enough,
So like there,
there's an actual scene uh, that I spotted. I don't know if you two did, and I don't know if I think it's just a blatant animation thing for a goof of when I think it's when Shaggy and Scooby first see the witch and turn the corner and bump into the gang, and everyone's toppled over. Daphne's not present at all, but then you find out that Fred's on top of Daphne.
yeah, and then also Ben Ravencroft is the only one that's still standing, which is funny.
Yeah, but Daphne is nowhere and then just appears.
No, I missed that one.
Uh, I got funny cartoon goof. Shaggy and Scooby like sucking up their fat to look like they're broad shouldered.
Yeah,
Hmm.
That was pretty funny.
and the hair.
Uh,
They took a book out of Johnny Bravo.
yeah, exactly. And then the Hex Girls scared the shit out of them when they ran.
I just wrote the note during that scene of Scooby's into human girls.
That is the funniest thing I laughed at in this whole movie is when Scooby pointed them out in the alley to Shaggy, and Shaggy's response is just
Girls.
"girls." I, I don't. I just thought it was so funny.
Scooby is not into normal dogs. I don't think that Scooby would be into normal dogs. But it's funny that he's into human girls for this one.
He's into human girls in this one. And then it bugged me that they called them witches and not vampires. That bugged me because they are veterans. They've been doing mystery
Yeah,
solving
and they
forever.
saw the teeth.
They saw fangs and they thought, three witches.
I think that's
What?
just a story connection. If they said vampires, they might have to explain more into that rather than witches of what they've already covered.
Oh, I get that, but I'm saying because they chose to do that, they damaged the character of
Yeah.
of
The,
Shaggy and
the
Scooby.
yeah, the change you'd have to make is just give them the witches hats.
Yeah, witches
Or
hats,
if they say something stupid that in
or no
this, or
fangs.
not, or just something in this world that witches can have fangs. If they
Yeah,
just said
substandard
that,
issue witch wear.
yeah, if they could just say that, then the backstory they show of Sarah not having fangs explains more into Ben saying she's a Wiccan and proves his point. But then when her ghost is summoned, she could have fangs and like, oh, she is a witch, and the Hex Girls explain that they're just fake teeth anyhow. So They could have just ployed that into it.
They could have. They didn't. Therefore, I think they damaged Shaggy and Scooby there.
Yeah, that falls under them being like, yeah, they've been quote unquote stupid, but not like stupid in the grand scheme of like they're cowardly. They're not the brightest people, but that doesn't make them stupid inherently, kind of way. And
Yeah.
this kind of, I agree, dumps them down a bit.
To even strengthen Crimson's point, at the very end of the movie, Scooby has a cape and draws it up with the fangs and, uses his arm to cover his face. Very vampire.
Yes. Do they call them vampire teeth in this at
I
all?
think they just call
The
them
Hex
fangs. I
Girls?
don't think vampire said at all.
Yeah, I think they just call them fangs.
What I find a little odd, though, and just a question thing, um, Luna, it's Luna, Thorn, and Dusk. So when Luna says like her dad's or someone's a dentist and takes the fangs out and shows Shaggy and Scoob, we then see Scooby turn around to Shaggy and have fangs in his mouth. Did he put Luna's fangs in his mouth?
I guess. I mean, you could just say cartoon logic. He gets fangs. They spawn a bush. They spawn costumes to make out on a bench with. So it could you see something Scooby materialized, or he could have snagged hers. He's a dog. I'm sure he's not too worried about the hygiene.
Okay.
But they also did say that the dad custom made them for them, so it would not fit a dog's mouth.
Suppose
That's
that's
true.
true. But then again, cartoon logic. But I don't know.
I
It just seemed to follow through of direct next of Scooby having fangs.
I agree. I quite like, I guess, the town story, like the idea that Ben comes to this place as a writer's retreat to recharge after being abroad in Europe and stuff like that. And he comes back to find his small town has changed significantly. They found a way to bring back the tourist crowd, and
Yeah, the as the mayor calls them, leaf peepers. Or Ben calls them that, leaf peepers.
did Ben say he comes back every year?
I think he said once a year. Yeah.
They did a lot in a year.
Well, the mayor said 6 months. They've they've had this in the works. So we do have a time frame for that.
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't work. It's just very. They did a lot in 6 months, to a year to get this all to get their Quaker town up and running. Quaker town, colonial town,
I don't
uh,
know. I think
plantation.
just
No,
small town, but it just
Puritan
looks.
villages, they called it.
Yeah, they
Puritan
just said it
village. Thank you.
that time.
Yeah, they did a lot to get the Puritan village up and running in that time, and it works. Makes sense. I'm assuming at some point during that time they also took that as an excuse to start up the ghost hauntings to get I guess the merch and uh, everything else going.
I feel bad. I wonder how much they actually made with this whole thing because they had to spend the money to build it, and then it all got destroyed. So I wonder if they're in the hole by the end, or if they still had profit.
It depends on how much it's been active. I don't
Yeah,
know.
unknown. But Ben, very successful with the size of that house he's got. Even
Oh
though it
yeah.
is in the middle of nowhere, so it is probably cheaper, but it would still be a pricey house.
Yep,
Unless it's like an ancestral house, which is possible.
Could have been
it
Sarah's house.
could be. I don't know if I'd go that far. Then
No,
again, he
I
could have
don't.
just renovated it. I did stay in a 1800s house. It was really cool, but it was obviously how was a bit renovated because it had like a you know modern technology in it.
Yeah, and wiring in it.
Now, something I brought up in Zombie Island was transition usages and how they're paired, and I just thought that was very fitting to the film or something they went with. Um, I noticed a little bit also in this film, and I'm not using it as a fact that like it's a connected universe as an example. Just I think same um, production company, like similarity pairings between the two movies. At six, where did I get the time? Yeah, 6:43 timestamp. There's a left swipe transition, and then the next one follows up at 15:35. However, there's I think I called in Zombie Island like a goop transition, or like a from the top down kind of thing, and that happens. I think I only caught that happen once in this
And
film,
this one had a
though.
sound effect this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it had sound effects in Zombie Island, the goop one.
I think it did, but it's not the same sound.
I don't remember it having it. But I don't have the best memory.
I admit I wasn't really looking at the transitions. uh, so I'll just take your word on it, Spriggs.
Okay.
Um, I funny joke I liked. I liked the line to Ben Ravencroft about him. He's gonna regret offering to pay for Shaggy and Scooby eating.
There's no payoff to that.
No.
There's no payoff to that. I do like the joke, and the payoff to it is more focused on the chef character,
Jack.
Jack. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
don't
but
think.
there was no like, here's your receipt, Ben, later. And he's like, what?
Yeah, I don't think they were. I don't think they did that because Ben would have lost, I guess, some of his more intimidating aura when he turned into a villain at the end. Like they didn't want to. They didn't want to make a joke out of him. Does that make sense?
Or
Yeah,
even better at the end, what if Jack went up to Shaggy and Scooby was like, well, Ben can't pay, so here's the bill.
that would have been something.
That would have been funny. That would have been funny.
But
But
yeah, they ate the
I
entire inventory.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jack had to run to the market to get more food.
Mhm.
There is a
I don't.
scene at 17:30 where it's panning to show them eating, and Shaggy's eating a brown bowl. My best guess is that it's a bread bowl. To
I have
accept that,
no idea.
otherwise he's eating the plates.
Well, we can see that the people watching them eat are so abhorrently disgusted by their eating habits that they're just throwing up.
Yes, which goes into a little error I have with that, or just it doesn't really make sense. It shows so many people watching them in shock, eating, and then it goes to the one guy who gets out of his booth and runs out the front door past the rest of the gang, and it's just that
Oh,
one
good point.
guy. And when the three of them step in, the restaurant's empty.
Yeah,
Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
that's probably just lack budget, but no evidence, so can't say. Um, Something I think would be fun if you guys ever watch this again is to look at the train painting behind their booth every time it comes up.
Oh, it
Uh,
changes each time.
it changes every single time. The train painting is different.
That's funny. Okay, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah. And then something I just thought was funny artistically is that the windows in the diner. Uh, it's just a window, but it looks like blood smears are splattered all over it. But it's just an artistic
Oh,
way to
I
show
caught that.
autumn outside.
Yeah,
It just looks like blood outside.
it's just blur.
Yeah, and obviously, I think they were playing into the blood aesthetic with the way Scooby was eating that like bowl of cherries or whatever or punch.
Or I think it was the baked beans.
That were all like
The
blood
beans?
red.
Weird.
Well, Jack said like maple cooked baked beans or something at one point. So my best guess is it's that, but I don't know. Could have been weird looking cherries.
I don't know. I'm not a food guy. Don't know. Let's see. Something I didn't care for again, and this was with the line that the mayor gave when the he went to Ben's place and talked about finding something of Sarah's, the grave marker, and he's like, I have something to tell you since you asked if there was anything about Sarah, and I didn't tell you. Like he didn't ask if there was anything about Sarah. He asked if they found Sarah's book. So Yeah, it's semantics, but he didn't ask for about anything Sarah. He just asked about Sarah's book.
I
Didn't think that
see.
line worked.
I think it's still passable, but I get what you mean.
I mean, yeah, the mayor could have extrapolated, but um, writing wise, I wasn't a big fan of it because
I
he asked for
was
the book and nothing else.
in that context of that scene. What I didn't quite like, which I thought would come up later or something, is the mayor and Mr. McKnight walk into the room and they're like, "Oh yeah, we rang the doorbell," and Ben's like, "Oh, it's been broken for months." It's like that's their
Yeah.
excuse to just walk in.
Yeah.
I thought that
I mean,
was
it's
kind
like
of just
Canada, right?
ah, oh,
Uh,
okay.
it is actually kind of like that in America.
Tight knit
And
communities, right?
yeah, it is like that in America before the early 2000s for very, very specific reasons that we will not go into. So that didn't bother me, the fact they just walked in. But I still agree with everything that you guys have said, pretty much. It's weird that the mayor just didn't take the implication that it's like, no, we didn't find Sarah's book, we found a grave marker. Like that to me, I think would have been that is still something worth talking about because Ben has been trying to find it all this time, you know.
I think the Ben thing with the oak tree is dumb.
Yeah.
That he
Yes it
looked
is.
at one tree that he thought was like the only remaining tree, and it's not there, knowing
Yeah.
that there's a stump of an oak tree.
Well, we don't know if that was the only tree. That was the one he decided after looking was the tree.
Oh, I guess, on the other hand, he never bothered to think about the stump that's an oak tree. He excused that one.
There's a there's a few workarounds for it, but I think what would have worked is what if they found the grave marker in like a completely different location? Like, what if the grave marker was supposedly near where the broken stump of an oak tree was? So it implies that Ben was looking in the wrong place entirely.
But do they ever state where the grave marker actually is?
It
All we
was
know is
in
it was
between the oak tree and the events or whatever. Yeah. Okay,
like
Puritan Village.
all we know for sure is that it's a part of the
The little
uh
park area?
yeah, the Puritan town.
Yeah, when they were
So
leveling the ground, they dug it up.
it would have been like, see, that would have been interesting if that was also a clue. Like, oh, that he was looking in the wrong place entirely. So he's like, he could have said, "I've been looking near the wrong oak tree all this time," but in that reference, he could just be referring to having looked in an entirely different location this entire time.
They never said what happened to Sarah, right? Excluding obviously that she was bound to the book, but I mean before that,
Now she
they're not like she
died
got
or
hung or something, right?
no?
They never said she disappeared or
Nope.
got killed or
Never
nothing.
never stated her death.
Hmm.
They just said what was it, persecuted in 1657?
Yeah,
I think that's the only thing you have on it.
Persecuted and then trapped in the book as punishment for her evil deeds.
I feel like
Well,
something like
true, but
that
then
would
you
be
gotta.
documented or are told through
I don't
generations.
know if she's necessarily bound in the book. The book got her out.
No, they said that she got bound to the book.
Oh, she
Yeah,
did. Oh,
she's trapped in the book because she when the book was first opened, she did just fly out. Ben Ravencroft needed to release her.
yeah.
So
But
I
they
thought that
said
was
the
just a
Wiccans bound
summoning.
her to the book.
Okay.
And then something would have been a nice little detail to throw in there is when the book is burning that Velma or somebody's like, well, what if the book getting destroyed releases them and they try to stop it from getting destroyed or something? Like to me, I'm like, oh, so if the book gets destroyed, do they get released or are they just dead? I would have liked somebody to consider what if they can get released.
but what about the cool line of his next book not being a bestseller or whatever?
Oh, so funny.
I agree, Crimson. I would have preferred them to address that as a potential problem. Again, I talk about it. I kind of like the introduction to the the proper introduction to the Hex Girls when they're doing their first song.
Yeah.
They get a well. I already stated I really like the music in this from the Hex Girls, and I've added both their songs to my track list.
Hmm.
Um, but I like, I guess, the story reasons is how like interconnected the town was, because I think they accomplished a lot story wise in the scene as well. Them noticing the lights because they're practicing for their show, which gives them the excuse to go investigate. And then obviously once they're there, there's obviously it's a small town, so they're very familiar with who Ben Ravencroft is. And then they later on that comes back is they show up to help with their plan because of their trust in who Ben Ravencroft is and what he's done for the town. Because at that point he's not maniac.
I like
uh,
their attempt at pan shots during that first song of the background and then like an item in the foreground, like an amp, go the opposite direction to show like
yeah, well,
movement.
yeah, and we're focused on Thorn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 I
it's
also
pretty
enjoy that.
dynamic. Yeah, um, I like just the designs of the Hex Girls because they have the like inverted shadows. Like they're black, but their outlines are the colors instead of the other way around. And that's something that bugs me with their later iterations because they have several different versions of them, uh, where they don't have that visual. Like Thorn in a later version just has black hair. There's no red outline. It's just black hair, and it doesn't look right.
Yeah, I don't remember that in
Um,
Mystery Incorporated.
yeah, they have a couple different versions in that show.
Yeah.
I meant the pilot.
So, oh, that one. Never mind. I meant the animated Mystery Incorporated.
Yeah.
Because they do show up in there like 2 times, I think. Um, so yeah, I just like the visual of them. Look pretty cool.
Uh, I agree. I think they did a good job with just that whole scene in general.
Mhm.
You think the first
Uh,
scene is better than or the first song
And
number animation is better than the second one?
uh,
yeah,
better, yeah. As far as better, like visually in terms of animation style, yeah. I think I enjoy the first song personally more too, but I like both songs.
Okay. I'm in
yeah.
agreement. I think the
I
first one's better.
mm, wasn't a fan of the gang being up there because you see they're playing instruments, but their instruments aren't
They're turned off.
played. Yeah, but drums are being played that aren't the drums you hear in the song.
Yeah,
The
and a
drums are being
tambourine.
played by Dusk. Um, so yeah, a bit of continuity errors, I guess, with the music. Obviously, it's intentional because it would just sound sloppy, but
Yeah, but I think it goes with
they
both.
didn't have to play instruments.
Yeah, it goes for both though. Like I mean, even the first song, the instrument animation isn't lined up to the audio.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. That their instruments are at least playing music. Whether or not it's in sync, that can be debated. But their instruments are playing music. The gang's instruments are not playing music.
Yes. Point for both.
Uh, I had a point. I was gonna say the voice actress for Thorn. I know I've heard her in a lot of things, and I'm regretting not learning her name yet. Um, I think she's a good singer because I think that's actually her singing.
I believe it would be. If
Yeah,
they didn't
I
pull a Mulan.
don't.
Yeah, no, they did not.
Yeah, I don't remember who the voice of Thorn was. I know she's done a lot of voice stuff though.
Yeah, like I think she's. I think uh Jennifer Hale. I think is her name, right?
That
That's
I
is
how.
a name I'm
recognize the
familiar
name.
with.
Yeah, I know Jennifer Hale a lot from. Uh, I know her best from Mass Effect. That's where I know her from. Uh, but yeah, Jennifer Hale's definitely like premier voice actor. Um, uh, Spriggs got a point to jump to.
Let's see. At 23-26, Velma is. I think she's on the path with Ravencroft and Scooby and Shaggy going after the car tracks, and she pulls a flashlight out of thin air.
I knew you were gonna bring that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cartoon physics. I mean, Shaggy
I
and
mean, it would
Scooby
have
bring
it
out
would have
outfits
helped.
and lots of other things too.
It's true. It would have helped if she actually reached behind her back and pulled it out. I'm like to show it's like concealed, but it just comes up into frame.
Yeah, she draws it like an invisible sword out of a invisible bag of holding.
All right. She does voices in Totally Spies and Cinderella in the Cinderella
Oh,
sequels.
Jennifer Hill. Still on Jennifer
Yeah.
Hill. Okay.
I was looking at her
IMDb.
filmography there. Yeah. Um, Something I would have liked to see because it was probably one of my favorite parts in Zombie Island was the flashback of the pirates and everything. We get a little flashback with Sarah being a Wiccan, but we don't get a flashback of her getting bound to the book or
When
anything.
we get a flashback to the lie, which is weird.
So I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah, I would have loved to see like the same flashback with different context, if that makes sense. Like we see the one that Ben's lying, the like Ben's lie flashback, and then we see the true one.
Well,
Yeah.
who's to say the Ben Lie one isn't fully true? Like she could have been still doing that as a witch, right?
Could have, yeah,
I mean, it goes against the
but because
character we see of her.
yeah, but at that point, it would have clashed with the character we see here. So it would have made it would have made it more sense to them show that that was a lie to then play off the new flashback or whatever is like the truth of what happened.
I suppose so. I think it also could have been
That
just worked like just
it
different time, like before her
could
turn,
be,
or
but it
but
wouldn't flow this. It wouldn't flow as well as for terms of the story. I thought it was funny that Shaggy and Scooby just casually ran the mayor over just after all their hard work of trying to avoid detection when they were running away from the ghost in the warehouse.
yeah.
That
Also,
was funny.
how'd the mayor get out of that warehouse?
He teleported into the streets
Yeah,
so
but
they would run
there was a
by him.
fast travel point in the as mayor of the town, he would know where all the fast travel points are.
Yeah.
Mhm. Naturally. But yeah, he teleported for sure.
Crimson?
Yeah. Um, I'm glad that the mayor wasn't the ghost because I would have laughed if they took the mask off and it was his fat head poking out, and I'm like, it's not, the body wouldn't match. So I'm
The
glad it was the Bill Nye
McKnight,
looking guy. Yeah, McKnight.
yeah.
Thorne's
I would
dad,
yeah.
Hmm.
which is a weird
Which it would have been
add
interesting to
in.
have them have screen time together or something instead of it being like a reveal.
Uh
I don't know. Was
uh
that a good reveal to you guys? Was that McKnight being Thorne's father?
No, I think that
No.
was just
It
a
felt
tie-in
lackluster
connection.
because it
Yeah.
wasn't built anyway.
I think the closest thing they do to building that up is we meet him selling his daughter's merch. I think if
Was it?
they
I thought it was
yeah,
just the
he
autumn merch. It was just like I
no
saw
he's
the witch.
no yeah, that's his daughter's merch for the album band thing.
Oh, I didn't see that at all that way.
I don't think it is. I think it is merch they sell at the concert though. I think that's what he said.
I thought it was merch
Yeah.
for the Autumn Fest.
But it's not the band's
Oh, I thought it
merch.
was. I thought it was connected to the band. Like that's what they were. That was one of the songs they were gonna sing or whatever.
Oh no, I don't think so.
Yeah, well, I know they were selling it at the band, which is why I know they were selling it at the concert, which is why I just assumed that it was part of the band's merch. Uh, I guess shame on me for assuming a connection there. I guess.
No, I think it's the Autumn Fest festival. Those are the shirts for the festival, and the Hex Girl band is putting it like having a concert for it. But I don't
Yeah.
think the shirt and the band connect.
Well, I mean, they're gonna sell it at the concert anyway.
Yes, but the concert is for the festival. So it's like going to a
Yeah.
fairground. If I went to a merch store, I wouldn't think that the merch is for the local band playing in the next booth, kind of thing.
I mean, there could be merch from the
There
band
could.
in there
It's
as
not
well.
impossible.
because they're part of the festival.
It could work.
Oh,
I think what I would want, I guess, as far as I'm fine with it being Thorne's father, um, but I would prefer them to build the connection a bit more. So I think what we have right now is serviceable and like it's a C on a letter grade scale.
I have it
It's
as a
not great.
D. It's just weak. There's
Yeah,
no like
yeah.
ploy or like McKnight's put in the the barrack gallow thing, and Thorne isn't worried about him at all. Like doing the spell book, she's like looking at him, or he's like calling out to her. It's like that's all ignored.
oh, no, she is worried about him. She does call out for him.
Does she?
Yes, she does. She's not during the spellbook stuff. She's busy focusing on that at that point. But they do show her worried about him. So it's not that the connection's absent. It's just that I there should be more because of I assume they wanted us to feel something at her feeling a bit betrayed by her dad doing all this.
Huh.
Yeah,
I guess it was a
I
blink and I
definitely
missed
would have
it.
liked more.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I think it's there. It's just weak, which is why, like I said, on a letter grades, it's a C. It's there, but I don't think there's enough to, I guess, get across the importance of the impact or whatever. Because it feels like they made up off screen almost because of the next time they show up when they're all in Ben's house, her dad is also just there and they're cool with being around each other despite what happened. So I feel like there's definitely stuff missing from that relationship and connection for sure.
I guess jump into something else. We have a Fred and Daphne scene where Fred was about to open up to her, and then it never happens.
And that is what we
S-
call a classic cartoon get out of jail free card.
Yeah, unfortunate. No conclusion there. What do you think Fred was going to say?
I don't
He
know.
just really liked her jacket?
You would have bumbled.
Yeah. But I do like how they were playing around with them being more than just friends here. Daphne being jealous of Fred with Thorn, Fred about to open up to Daphne. You know,
However, this
more
isn't.
than the shows typically
It's
portray.
not a Lena and Bo thing. I think that
No,
played more into it in Zombie Island.
Yeah, I think Lena and Bo was definitely more balanced because it played with both perspectives of the relationship, while this was definitely more onto Daphne's perspective of the relationship, which is fine. It's just it's definitely playing into that will they won't they trope a lot without really paying any of that off. Crimson.
all right. Uh, I'll say it now because I won't remember to say it at the end. Do you guys feel that this is a decent follow-up film? Whether not really in consideration of where it is on the timeline, but just is this a good follow-up film?
Hmm. uh, Can you define a little more what you personally mean by follow up? Because I can see it
This
two
came
different
out
ways.
after Zombie Island.
Okay, just being the next Scooby-Doo film.
Yes, that
Okay,
like
I
I
think
said,
that's fine.
not timeline or anything like
Yeah,
that. Continuity.
I think it's pretty good.
I don't know. I think for me, it's a bit lacking in the follow-up department because usually what you'd want out of a follow-up, not necessarily a sequel, but is improvement. And I feel like a lot of this wasn't an improvement. I think it was a downgrade visually. I think there was less character stuff in here, and they kind of did the same sort of twist where it was real at the end. You get real magic, you get a real ghost. This time you get a fake out with a fake monster. That wasn't really in Zombie Island. It was all real. So it's a little different, but the big reveal of there's a real ghost, real magic didn't feel like the same punch of Zombie Island where the zombies are real.
This is my first time watching, and I think I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum for that one.
Mm,
It felt like a Scooby-Doo adventure to me. Um, I didn't have any expectations going into it. I didn't know what I was really in for. Um, at face value for me, I think why I lean towards this being one other reason why I want to lean this towards this being in the same universe as Zombie Island is I actually think that the I think the characters benefit from being in that universe because that movie builds on those characters, and then this kind of if we were to take those character traits that they have in that film and put it into this, I think those traits are built upon a little bit. Um, I also find this film's writing, at least in the interplay between the characters, I find it to be a bit tighter, meaning that like it's there's less up to interpretation, but I think it's all the characters are mostly consistent within themselves, outside of the one issue for me being Velma kind of absorbed like Fred's character traits for a bit, and potentially Velma's as well, for her to get a I guess catch the fake monster. But even that I recognize is important because they're playing her off of Ben Ravencroft, which is very someone she looked up to at a certain point. Um, so I I do think outside of like the visual aesthetic, because I do agree the visuals are a bit of a downgrade. I actually thought a lot of it was a little bit of an improvement upon the last film.
mm, wow, two very different opinions on that one.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't really know how to answer your question other than that.
Oh, that answered it.
uh,
So you think it was a good follow-up film?
I do, yes. Uh, I think they're both accomplishing different things as far as the goals as films go. Like the last film was getting the gang back together and them trying to find their groove again and trying to look for something real. While with this, it's more of like uh, it's the next big mystery. You know, it feels like they're just kind of working the cases and they just happen to stumble upon this one because Ben Ravencroft orchestrated it. Uh, so yeah. Uh, I did write when we find out the whole town was in on it. I obviously wrote for the greater good.
For the greater good, yeah. Except this came out first.
That's
They
true. It
copied.
did. They did.
uh, no, I had the same thought process with the reveal as well.
A Hot Fuzz reference.
Yeah, because this film, I remembered a decent amount. I didn't remember that the whole town was in on it. I just remembered Jack and the mayor. Um, I didn't even
Which is fair.
remember
You
who
spend most
really
of the
Ghost
time with
was
Jack and the mayor.
or which. Yeah,
I do kind of like that it was the whole town, because then it's all the locals were doing this tourist trap thing.
yeah, it works. It makes sense.
Though
Uh,
unfortunately, when the tourists were ready to see it, they gave it an hour and then fled. And I don't know why it wasn't shown there. But then the witch only tormented Shaggy and Scooby. Also,
uh,
when Shaggy and Scooby go in the warehouse to follow the mayor, and the mayor, teleports and the witch is there, which is McKnight. How did McKnight fly to Shaggy and Scooby, like, towards them without the cherry picker in that warehouse? Did he just jump off that railing?
if I were to guess, based off of nothing that's in the scene, he could have connected himself to something on the roof and just kind of swung across.
The cherry picker's at the barn, which Ravencroft and Velma are at.
Yeah, that's why I said he's connected himself to the roof of the barn or the warehouse, not the barn.
Yeah.
Well, that would explain him dropping down, but the whole flying outside the barn, they don't have the cherry picker for that.
Is he flying outside the barn? Or outside
Did
that
he
warehouse?
not?
I don't think. I think
I don't
he,
think
he jumps
he
off the
doesn't leave the
railing
warehouse.
towards Scooby and Shaggy and they run through the wall.
Yeah, I don't think he leaves the warehouse, so I don't have
Oh,
to. I don't think there needs to be a cherry picker for that one.
never mind. I don't have an issue with him. Because yeah, you could jerry-rig anything. I'm not an issue with that.
Uh, I
But
did
on the
find
point, Sprinks, of why they didn't show up for the tourists, don't really know.
I don't know. Like, isn't that the
Maybe they were
point
afraid
of
of the
the
mystery gang
ghost?
figuring it out. That would be my best faith, I think, is just worried about them being revealed before the big day.
But
I
I
think
just think
it
that's
might
dumb. Because their point is to do the witch thing to draw in all these leaf peepers. And then if they're
uh,
not going up, isn't that the night before the concert? So that would turn people
well,
away?
no. I think that the fact that there was a ghost at all story at all is enough to draw the crowd. I think that they I think it's a good choice that they don't do it because that's just too many eyes. Something can go wrong. Because it's been individual scares so far.
And in real life, people go to haunted houses and haunted stuff, and nothing happens, right? But they still go. So I don't have an issue with people going expecting to see a ghost, and then the ghost doesn't show
Well,
up.
I think that's different of a haunted house experience kind of thing. Because it's not someone saying like actual ghost hunter kind of thing is different, but like a haunted house attraction of people going
No,
that.
not in an attract. I'm talking about a house someone actually believes is haunted, not like of trick mirrors or robotic stuff.
Okay, and nothing
I'm
occurs.
talking actual, air quotes, actual haunted houses. People go to those to try to feel supernatural stuff, and they don't always happen, but they still go. So I have no issue with a bunch of people wanting to see a ghost and then not seeing one because that's definitely within the realms of possibility.
Well, then what's the purpose of having the ghost? Or sorry, having the
To
witch?
bring in the people.
But there
I
is
mean,
well,
look
that's
what
just a
happened.
story.
Yeah, and that's
The
good
witch is
enough.
for
The people are there.
No, okay,
the grand reveal day, the concert, the big
so they were
reveal.
gonna have the
That's
witch at the concert on the big reveal day. That was the plan.
pretty sure.
I,
What I'm getting at is if they just needed the story of the ghost to go around without ever needing it, then why was there a cherry picker? Why was there fireballs? Why was there a
I get what you're
costume?
saying, and I think they were going to use them.
Just not on the night where everyone's around? Just have it at the concert?
You're framing it like that's the only night people are there.
I'm framing it like it's a story kind of thing to draw in an audience, and if it's not shown, I feel like that's turning away the people you're trying to get.
I feel like if you can do it whenever you want, then people aren't going to believe it. All right, tune in for the ghost at 6 o'clock on the dot. They will show up. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're telling the story as if it's a real thing. You can't time it.
I wish when they were revealed at the end and the mask was taken off that they explained what their plan to do with it was.
uh, I could agree with that. Uh, I uh, their plan is unclear. I don't think they needed to show the monster at the concert. I legitimately think it's just to help bring tourists to the town, and they find an isolated tourist every now and again. They wouldn't ever want to do it with big groups because big groups is too many eyes. But like an isolated tourist, sure, scare them because then they'll just keep spreading the rumors like, "Hey, I saw it too," that sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that was my take on the whole plan. I didn't know if they were going to do a big thing at the concert or anything. I just took it as it was always a means of bringing in tourists, and they just scared the occasional tourist to try and uh,
Build up the story.
build up the story and then avoid the larger crowds. And the reason they would scare Shaggy and Scooby out of the mystery gang, one, they're not as bright, and two, if the mystery gang is interested in these famous group of people who are solving mysteries and they're going to be here for Autumn Fest, that's just more potential people to be there.
Yeah, they're more credible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
like
that was
that
my
pitch. I just wish they solidified that answer.
yeah. That was my inference because that's that's the inference I can make based off of all the evidence that I have on hand. But I will say that it's not. They don't explicitly state that as their reason. That's just based on my inferences as to like what when they decided to use the ghost and why they chose to use the ghost.
I'll bring up what I usually do is the magic. I
Ooh,
don't
the magic.
understand. I don't understand the magic here. So Ben needed the book to get magic spells. He needed to say words to summon her and to send her out or back in the book. Uh, but he can just cast fire spells or whatever the green stuff is. He can just do that. I'm like, okay, it's tied to the book. If you have the book, you can now cast spells. And then he loses the book to Scooby. I'm like, okay, I guess he has to get the book back. No, and then he starts firing at the tires. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
That's when I had an issue as well at
so
that
you
point. Like,
don't
all right,
need to say spells, and you don't need to hold the book anymore. So what is happening?
yeah, they establish rules and then break them. I didn't like that.
I see it being unclear, and I get all that. I don't know. Then again, it's just said of like the first time you utter the spell, you then just have that power.
He did not. He didn't. He never finished the spell. The one for summoning Sarah. Unless you're saying the first time he used the fireball, he now has fireball forever.
No, the fireball wasn't a spell. The first one I thought granted him the green power, like to blow out the tires. That I was fine with because it seemed like he did a spell for that and then had it with or without the book. The fire, he didn't say a spell, but he had the book in his hand, but the fire just happened. Then again, it only happened once when he had the book. So I'm kind of say on the fire thing. To summon Sarah, he did the whole incantation. To try to put her back in the book, he was stopped by her. I find that I
Well,
don't know
he
why he
didn't
stopped
have
the
the
spell.
pure. He didn't have the purity thing that
That's
Sarah said.
true, but he
So
still stopped trying as soon as she interjected him.
yeah,
Like he could have tried and she could have laughed at him knowing it wasn't going to work, but
I guess he
It,
just trusts her.
it's weird that he just didn't then immediately cast an attack spell. All right, yeah, maybe I can't trap you, but I could do this.
that's true.
He hasn't had enough time to read the book, though. Would be my answer. He doesn't
Oh, he
know
could
if
cast.
what's
He
in
could already
there.
cast fireballs, so it's something.
Yeah,
That was page 1. That
he
isn't
can
shown.
do the green thing.
Yeah. We know he
Yes.
can fucking fly slash do flips in the air. Could have tried to escape
That's
too.
true.
There were things that he could have done. I think to be more.
I It's possible that the first spell he said just granted him all these abilities versus then like a 1-to-1 kind of thing.
Yeah. I okay. My best faith interpretation because there's still rules broken even with my best faith interpretation. Um, he has the blood, therefore he has magic innately in him. He could have learned the more basic incantations, uh, outside of the book, but he just didn't have the power that was in the book until he had the book. And then obviously, that's an issue when he loses the book to Scooby because they just drive by and take it from him.
What's to say that if he did finish the spell, it wouldn't have worked to put Sarah back in?
Well, we only
What we
have
have for that is what she said.
yeah, we only have Sarah's word on the matter.
And we
Laughing
know
with
that
possible Wiccan
Thorn
only.
worked.
Well,
That's all we
yeah,
get.
but
So nothing to really theory craft on. We have the word of a crazy old lady. That's all we got.
I kind of think if Ben finished, it would have worked
I have no reason to assume why it would or wouldn't work
because
because we don't have any evidence on it.
he was the one who got her out. I'm sure
So it was
Thorn could have also gotten her out.
probably.
Yeah. So,
I
well,
think the witch gave or Sarah gave enough explanation to why it wouldn't work. So her lie, or if it is a lie, is believable. But I have no reason to assume she's lying either. So it's just nebulous. It's there's no evidence either way because it's just at the word of a bad guy.
yeah. And the word for the bad guy makes sense within universe, but again, it's a matter of whether Ben would believe it or not.
I guess I just fall on Ben stopping.
Sure, I can grant you that. You could argue if it's in his character to follow through or not. That I don't know, but that one is I can see more of a debate for.
My issue with Ben was just him giving up because he would just immediately accept that he can't trap her, but he could still fight her. Like that
Seeks
would be something.
power.
I think that's
This is
where.
evil's finest power. He went so extra.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It was the opposite of the Green Lantern litany.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Total
Green Lantern.
global saturation.
Yeah, yes. Wesker.
Opposite Green Lantern. You don't mean the Yellow Lanterns, do you?
no, I meant the what he was reading was essentially what the opposite of the Green Lantern oath.
Oh, opposite of the hope.
Yeah, isn't
Yeah,
that the Yellow Lantern oath?
Well, yeah, yellow sphere. I don't know what their oath is.
I thought it was like just the opposite of whatever the green one was.
I'd never heard the Yellow Lantern's oath, so I can't tell you.
Oh.
Well, and also is yellow the opposite of green? It's just they're stronger.
I don't know.
Right?
It's their
That's the
weakness.
battle.
Green
So,
Lanterns can't touch yellow.
Uh, it's so weird. Anyway,
because you can't have hope when you're afraid.
I don't know. I had a. I don't think it's necessarily breaking anything, but it's just a weird thing to me in this context of the movie. Daphne reports back after watching Thorn do the ritual in the shed that she thinks Thorn is a witch. I don't know why she would say witch and not Wiccan, because Ben told the whole story of Sarah being a Wiccan, and the practice of what she was doing was what Thorn was doing.
Well, that comes down to Daphne knowing what Thorn was doing. We find out later what Thorn was doing, but I don't think Daphne's an expert to know what Thorn was doing. And at this
I
point, they think Thorn's bad, or at least
suspicious.
suspicious. So I don't have an issue with her classification as a witch.
It's weird, but I can buy it. I think I don't like the fact that it kind of makes Fred and Daphne's uh spying around more superfluous. The fact that they, didn't second guess themselves or didn't run out that as a possibility. So I think it works. I just think it's a little clunky.
Okay. As I said, nothing breaking, but
Yeah,
it just seemed to
it's a bit.
like indicate that witch is bad and Wiccan's good kind of thing versus just not knowing.
Yeah, it's a little on the clunky side. Is where I lean with that. Um,
Something a little clunky for me is Ben's motivations. We find out he just wants power and he wanted Sarah to work under him to take over the world, right? At least that was his pitch to her. And I just didn't know why. Just if he's just a egocentric maniac, I mean that's fine, but that just seems so lackluster.
the reason I say he's an egomaniac is because I don't really have anything else as far as his motivation is concerned. Egomaniac, as its definition, would play into the manipulative aspect of how he orchestrated all this to get Velma and the gang there to help him, and his ability to kind of hide his true intentions. But he's also super maniacal on top of the ego, which is why he just kind of cuts loose when it happens. So I think he's the very base definition of what egomaniac, because I don't really, that's what I say, and I don't really have much motivation for him other than what he plain facedly gives us, is that he wants power for power's sake.
Yeah, which I just find is lame. And Springs was saying earlier with using witch trials lame. It's just like they could have done something simple of like let's take revenge of those who locked you in the book and just destroy everything, right? I mean that still sucks, but I feel like there's more to that than just power.
Yeah, that is one of the things I do think this doesn't improve upon from Zombie Island. Zombie Island gives us solid motivations for our villain characters
Mhm.
and how they were cursed to be in that state as well. We don't really get that from Ben. He's just evil for evil's sake.
Yeah, he's got no sad backstory to explain why he's cracked into this way. There's nothing really to him. He's a successful writer who wants magic to rule the world.
I guess the only hints that I have towards that is that it's all about Sarah. It's all about his past. She's the only mural we see in the room. Like, there's no other family. He's alone. He doesn't have a family around.
It would
It just
be
seems to be like a back hindsight kind of like obsession he has on Sarah.
yeah.
Well, he
The
said
gang
she was the
point
reason why he wrote it.
yeah, the gang point out that he's obsessed with the book. And I think as you say he is his she was being the reason he started writing horror stuff. Maybe there is something to say about how he feels about how the town feels about him. Like the town kind of does view him as a bit of a black sheep, even though it's kind of in a positive light.
I was only on the
So
town for a
maybe,
couple weeks a year.
yeah. So maybe he did feel outcasted by the town, even if they are is trying to be polite to him and stuff like that. So like there is some inferences we can build upon, but there's nothing solidifying that I guess his fall into egomania because it can work that he feels outcasted by the town, and that can lend into why he feels like he needs this to get revenge for all that's happened to him and stuff like that. But there's not much there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good time to ask. How are we doing on notes, gentlemen?
Getting towards the end.
Yeah, close to the end.
All right. I'm also nearing the end, so Spriggs, let's jump to you.
Could go into the clankiness kind of thing, but Velma has a plan of what to do to like capture the witch, and after she like goes over the plan, it fades into the stage, the concert stage, and Scooby and Shaggy start playing with the instruments. Was Dusk, Luna, and Thorn right there with Velma, and like they all walked up together, and Shaggy and Scooby just like involuntary just touch their stuff, or did they touch the stuff to kind of like summon them to be there?
Unclear.
Because if they were there
Can't
the whole
really
time with them, then that just feels. I don't know if that's in Shaggy and Scooby's character. That just seems dumb.
that they would play with instruments.
Like Luna and Dusk are right there with them present, and they just go up and start touching their stuff.
I totally see that within their characters. I mean, like you said earlier, Scooby just grabbed someone's butter churner and started playing air guitar on it. So I don't really have an issue if that was the case that they just wanted to play with their instruments. But whether which direction it is though, I don't know. We don't really get anything
Yeah,
showing
because it
which
starts
way it
on the
was.
instruments.
So don't know.
Is that when just so I'm thinking of the right scene? This is when they were all meeting up
This is
for
when,
the plan.
right after that, because the plan is with the Gain and Ben, and then it goes to the stage, and it's just Velma, Shaggy, Scooby, and the Hex Girls. But it shows the instruments first, and Scooby takes like the tarp off the drums, and Shaggy's playing the keyboard, and then Luna just comes behind and says, "No one touches my keyboard," or hands off the drums. But I can't tell if the context of that scene they're all there as a group walking up on the stage, or Shaggy Scooby doing that got them to be there.
No, they say that they're there for because Ben asked them to be there. So I assume they just got there first and decided to play around.
Okay.
Yeah, I there is a line where they explicitly say that they're there because Ben asked them to be there. They're there as a favor to him.
Well, that's fine with that. Yeah, that they're getting there because Ben asked. But I don't know if that's still they're grouped up already or they came in two separate parties.
I don't think there's anything that answers that question, Spriggs.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that answers that question. and I don't know that I have a problem with it either way. I feel like Shaggy and Scooby would play around with that stuff for fun. Now that they know that they're, not actual
Okay,
witches.
I think I lean more that they were two separate parties because that sits well better with me for Shaggy and Scooby.
All right.
Sure, I guess if you want to play that way, I am indifferent because they don't
The
give me
Barter
anything.
Turner point you brought up, yeah, it's a good point to make.
Crimson.
All right, I like how they were playing around with how Scooby talks. Yeah, starts some words with R, and Ravencroft was having issues understanding certain things. Like when he said rocks, he's like rocks, no box, because it would make sense to find rocks digging in a hole. And I forgot the first instance it was where Ravencroft heard a real word, but it was not right because Scooby started with an R. I don't remember what the first one was, but I liked how they were playing with that. That people outside the gang could get confused with Scooby's speech.
They're not quite used to Scooby speaking.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think the final uh, fight sequence or the final chase sequence, there is a lot of plot armor involved. Um, just needs to be said outright. There are things that Sarah Ravencroft could have done to uh, capture the gang faster, or
Yeah, stretch your arms.
stretch her
Summon
arms,
the
or
entire pumpkin patch and not just 3.
some some of the entire pumpkin patch, grow thorns out of the ground. She has a lot
I
of abilities that she clearly could have used to end the fight
Yeah,
quickly.
I will say I got a little triggered that seeing a woman with a book with a face on it being attacked by tree roots. I feel like I've seen it before,
Yeah. See where you're going with that.
and it
Even
Uh,
could have been a reference.
Oh,
I
I
think
wouldn't go
that
that far, but I could see what you're going for.
I'm pretty sure that's happened more than those two times. That's a trope right there. um,
So with the plot armor aspect, it was annoying me because they Velma and Thorn have the book, and everyone else has been grabbed by the roots. I do like that they were throwing the book to each other. That
yeah,
was nice, but the Velma and Thorn get surrounded by the roots, but then the roots don't grab them or the book. They just
uh,
stay there,
Because they
and
got
the
the
then
interesting
book.
thing,
Sarah charges them personally.
the interesting thing about that scene is I actually think the animation helps them. Because I agree there's plot armor, but I think the animation helped them here because I think the book melts a root away because it got too close to them.
It looks like the roots are about to grab the book, and then it's picked up before the roots can. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, or when Thorn opens the book, the blue light comes out, and that
Yeah,
attacks a thorn
uh,
or something.
yeah, the blue light comes out and like reflexively attacks a thorn. So I thought that the implication for that was that the book had stopped the roots at that moment.
Maybe I missed that little
It
animation
was
thing.
Yeah,
it was it was a very brief animation thing. I rewatched it a couple times. I'm pretty sure the blue light that as when they open the book to start reading it, it actually melts a thorn away
yeah,
or
a
melts a root
branch.
away.
Yeah,
For me, so I took that as they're because it's in the hands of a good witch or whatever. That was the animation's way of saying that they're protected at that point from at least the roots. Um,
All right, I'll go with it.
yeah. I think it's enough
yeah.
indication.
Yes, that like I said, that was an issue of plot armor that I'm like, okay, they gave some magical bullshit reason that it works. I will accept this. Um,
On the topic of them tossing the books or the book, I did like Shaggy, and I guess we could debate whether it's his character or not, but he was the first one snatched, and he tossed it to Scooby. I'm like, wow, that's heroic of Shaggy. Shaggy could die right now, theoretically. And instead of asking for help, he's like, "Here's the book. Complete the mission." It's like, "Oh, that's pretty heroic of Shaggy." And then everybody ends up doing it, but Shaggy being the first one was like, interesting.
yeah, I
feel
like I
like he
said,
would kind of scream for help, but maybe he's
one
a
of
hero
the
now.
I think
one
that's
of the core
okay
char-
because it
yeah
could
one of
play
the
into
core char-
fear. Sorry.
yeah one of the core character traits I like about everybody in the gang is ultimately they will, when it comes down to the wire, I think they would do that sort of thing. That's one of the things that is usually consistent across a lot of their stories.
Yeah.
So I didn't have much of an issue with it. It's interesting that they didn't make Shaggy the first person though, and I think it's because she had Scooby.
Did
Could be.
she? I mean,
I,
she. No, Shaggy and Scooby were running side by side, and then Shaggy got caught, and then he threw it to Scooby,
yes, that's right.
and then Scooby got caught and threw it to Fred. Fred got caught, gave it to
No, 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 no,
Daphne.
no. I meant Scooby was caught before that, and then he did something to help get him free with the bucket, right?
That's later. That's after the big turkey thing, I think.
Well, that's still before the relay race to get the book to Thorn.
Yeah, that was before that.
Yeah, my point is that Shaggy already was like within this context of the film was already standing up to Sarah in such a manner because had a hold of Scooby. Because she rescues him with the bucket, and then we have the joke over the Oz thing,
Yeah.
which is when I thought would led to the relay race, happening right after that.
Yeah. Oh, and on that turkey, why is it still a giant turkey?
That I couldn't. That I don't know.
Good
When
question.
Sarah
Next question.
disappeared, the trees reverted back,
The
the pumpkins
pumpkins.
reverted back.
Yeah.
I don't know why the
Turkey
turkey
did
stayed.
not revert.
Another instance of plot armor, the fucking ghostly magic that just like ages things the hell up, just floats right above Daphne, Velma, and Fred instead of like enveloping them.
Sarah's evil, but she's not that evil, okay?
I guess not.
She was making an
Even
example.
evil witches have morals, apparently.
Yeah.
Well,
And the rapid decay thing was kind of cool, though.
Do you think it's
it did
in
look pretty.
Shaggy to continue the car with 3 busted wheels?
Is it within his character or
I
within
would
the
just
capabilities?
the capabilities I think are fine because it's cartoony and it's like the car's gonna swerve but it's gonna go where it wants to go. But Shaggy could just continue the car knowing he doesn't have control of the car, especially with the gain or especially Scooby next to him, like putting them in danger at that point.
My issue with that was how they were almost just gonna kill Thorne's dad and the mayor.
And the mayor, yeah, almost.
Um, I think it's because it's their only option at that point. They don't see another option. I'm fine with it. Like if if they had a clear other idea, I think they would have stopped.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of spur of the moment thing, so I'm not too against it. I Sprinks, you brought up how the Shaggy saying "girls" was kind of your funniest
I
moment.
thought, yeah,
Mine was the turkey baster. I thought that was crazy. Like, what is this doing in here?
Yeah, and that was also mine. The giant fucking turkey baster that they
That
used to thing.
POV and everything.
Yeah.
just
They
stupid
Wow.
they
turkey.
yeah they rolled a nat 20 on intimidation for that one. The
Gosh.
DM just handed them a fucking turkey baster to intimidate this giant monster.
Yeah.
It was very goofy.
Yeah. Uh, Sprinks.
The fire. I don't know if I already touched on this. The fire around Fred, Daphne, and Velma that Ravencroft puts onto them. The lighting, I think I touched on, doesn't change with their outfits or the coloring, but there's a blur effect that I think is just a good detail to have. So at least something's present for that frame.
Yeah, you brought up about half of that. You didn't bring up the blur thing. Um, yeah, I agree. The
I
whole
see why.
sentiment.
I I have a question as well. It might just be me. Is Shaggy's hair color different
From Zombie Island or like changed
from Zombie
throughout?
Island?
I don't I don't think so. Then again, Shaggy's hair changed a lot in Zombie Island because they played with the coloring of lighting a lot, but I think it's the same.
Alright. Yeah, I think it might just be because as you say they play a lot around with the lighting with regards to his hair. That might be why I feel like it's a little bit different.
Yeah, Zombie Island,
Um,
his hair goes from like light brown to almost black.
yep. Uh, Crimson point.
Um, I'm currently in the checking my notes phase.
All
I
right
don't
then.
I don't have any
Yeah,
right now.
Ryder, are you out?
I think I've got one more, but I'm also skimming my notes. I like the. Um, well, we actually already covered the joke, so no, don't need to talk about that. And the I like that Ben's pulled into the book as well.
Yeah.
It feels like
It
it's a
well,
fitting end.
shoot, it's a spoiler to Crimson because he hasn't seen the movie. Ah, crud.
Is it a big spoiler?
Kinda.
What movie?
Well, a 2009 Disney movie. 2010.
I'll just take off my headset. It's coming
Uh,
off right now.
All right, so he
okay.
can't. I don't know why he just pressed deafen or whatever. Anyway, Ryder, it was very reminiscent to Princess and the Frog.
Oh, I guess that's true. That's true. All right. Uh, I guess add him on Discord.
I don't know. Yeah. Hey, Crimson, come back. Heh, it'd be
You can
funny if you
kind of
did because
fool
then he could
without
hear
you.
us. Haha. This is a
Yeah.
weird bit. That's not how you spell that.
Hello. Was it a good
Hello.
reference?
Ryder understood it.
All right.
I did understand it, yes. Um, and I find it funny that the giant turkey is now the main attraction without because the witch stuff has been not necessarily. I guess the town wouldn't know it's been debunked, or the tourists. I guess the town would know. Uh,
I guess they wouldn't know. Yeah, they would say the whole place has been destroyed, so they could just say the ghost did that.
well, they still got the hex girls, and they got a giant turkey now. It's funny to see them all dancing. And
Yeah,
I
to just show
I
where the turkey
guess
is.
I guess I'm okay with the fact that the mayor and Thorne's dad aren't like imprisoned or super punished because their motives were just growing the town. I guess
Well, it doesn't seem this town has a sheriff.
that is also true. There does not appear to be a sheriff. They're a small town, which is I guess they don't regulate. And I'm pretty much out of my notes. So Springs.
Um, we touched on it earlier, but I was looking at my notes and seeing it. We went over how the Sarah, the ghost, interrupted Ravencroft's spell to put her back in the book. But then she explains he can't because she gives her weakness of what it takes to do so, versus letting him finish knowing in her head that he couldn't achieve it.
Well, I mean, her telling him is a way of mocking. Just like if he was to say it and then laugh would also be mocking. So
Yes,
it's just how she wants to display
but telling
her
it
mocking.
gives her weakness of
Oh,
how
that's
it is
fine.
to
And I
defeat her.
mean, the freaking Scooby-Doo cartoon, they all do that. Ravencroft spent like 10 minutes talking about his whole origin of getting them here.
I'm just saying by doing that it makes the witch dumber.
Yeah, a lot of cartoon villains suffer that from that. So I agree. That is true. It does make the villain a bit stupider.
Okay, well I guess it's
Um,
just me to finish up things, huh?
I
Uh,
no,
uh,
I've now read all my notes and I have one last thing. The stores that the mayor goes to, I would have preferred if he went to their houses instead of the stores, because the stores would be closed at this point. Or I would have preferred Shaggy and Scooby being like, the mayor went to all these closed stores and picked up items, or a line for that. It's just weird.
more setup, you mean, for the conclusion?
Well, yeah, because they would all be closed. The hardware store would not be open this late, um, which she
Oh,
goes
I
to.
see. Unless
So,
they knew of these packages and things being gifted. Because the
Uh,
mayor's the only one in there, right?
well, yeah, it would be closed at this time. So either they'd have to call ahead to give the package, um, or that pretty much be it.
I'm gonna go with
'Cause
that
the store owner wouldn't be
because
there.
they were all in
I
it.
mean, we can assume that, but we don't get that. So all I'm saying is if they threw in lines to fix this stuff,
It would have been cool.
'cause
I didn't point it out. It would be cool though if the hardware store had a closed sign on it, but the mayor still walks in.
it would be closed at this time, especially in a small town. Stores
Okay, no,
close early.
you're confusing what I'm saying. I don't mean the store's closed. I mean the door's unlocked because this hard handyman knows the mayor's coming with a package, but it's closed on the outside to anyone else who doesn't know. Like no one's going to try the door because the sign says closed, but it's unlocked.
It just feels like formality because I feel like that would be implied. But sure, I guess visually it's a good add-on.
Yeah. More so than
Uh,
thinking that every owner lives in the store they're in.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
s-
last note that has not been touched on that I have is there was a weird animation thing I saw where Velma uses the butter to stop a pumpkin from attacking, and the angle of the pumpkin in the frame, I couldn't tell if the pumpkin is small or it's an obscene amount of butter.
It's a lot of butter
it is a lot of butter.
Okay.
because the pumpkin seems proportioned to everything else on the screen,
Okay. So it was just
and
proportionate
the butter
weird.
wouldn't have been that liquidy either.
No, probably not.
That is what we call cartoon physics.
That is absolutely what that is. Yeah.
And I guess well, this movie doesn't have an after credits scene, but Zombie Island did, and much like it, they both end. If we're counting that end credit scene, that Scooby says his catchphrase was Scooby Dooby Doo at the end, so that's matched.
uh,
Alrighty.
that's fair. Uh, well then, gentlemen, are there any final questions before we go into ratings and summaries?
Do we?
Should we give a definitive answer
Yeah, where we
to?
stance? Is this like a
Uh,
Twilight thing?
yeah,
Like what team we're on? Kind of big question.
yeah. I think we should.
All right. Uh, I guess I'll go down the line. I'll start. I I think I'd prefer them being in the same universe. Because I think I think it helps with a lot of the, I guess, the carryover for the character traits because they did less explaining as to who the characters are. I guess. Uh, you could do less work that way, and I think there are some funny through lines as far as uh character traits between the films. So I'm leaning that I would prefer them to be in the same universe.
And what about the timeline? Are you saying it come after Zombie Island?
Um, that I'm not sure on still, to be honest with you. I feel like I have to rewatch both of them again.
All right. I guess I'd be next in line. I do believe they are in the same universe, but I believe in what I pitched of this is in between the Moat Monster and them splitting up. I think it's in that time jump we had in Zombie Island.
Okay, I really like Crimson's pitch, and I think I stand by that because that helps make it make more sense. I'm thinking in my head, I'm 85% that it's the same universe. Something that's not helping is Fred's eyes are a different color.
Yeah, I guess it's maybe might be harder to animate blue eyes on a budget, maybe.
I don't know. It's just having me stand. Well, no, Daphne's eyes are blue, but it just has me standing like that's not the same Fred.
I mean, Daphne's eyes changed like 2 or 3 times in this movie alone to a lighter or darker,
Yeah.
and not just because of shadows.
But there's so many things that help prove that the newspaper, Daphne's in the same outfit, more so than like Shaggy and Velma because they're kind of the same. And Fred's outfit's been changing, especially in Zombie Island. It changed a lot. But Daphne's in the same suit kind of look. Um, the mannerisms are kind of the same a bit. I think everything that's like connecting the movie's bone structure of Velma solving a clue no one else sees, the transition usages, the sound effects, the dog wear joke. Um, Shoot, there was another one I had, but like those matches up to Zombie Islands. I think that's just to go with that. These movies are connected in some form of release, but that doesn't go to in-world connections. Um, so yeah, I'm like 85% sold that it is.
And more for me on the timeline is, if this was after Zombie Island, I would have wanted a Bo answer.
Oh,
Bo isn't here. Bo
Oh,
is
and
not
actually, where
where is
Bo
he?
referenced.
is.
Yeah, no reference to
Or is
him.
a cop in a detective in New Orleans?
Yeah, I'm still thinking on your theory, Crimson. I think that's kind of where I'd want this to be in the timeline as well, because that could then lend into the connection that she's making with Bo at the end of the movie, end of that movie.
Yeah, the only issue I have with it being where it is on the timeline, and I think if it's a problem either way on the timeline, is their reactions to real stuff.
Yeah,
This, they find a real ghost that's not a fake. So the big reveal in Zombie Island of real monsters is not as
damaged.
impactful now.
Yeah.
But it would
Yeah,
be the same way in Zombie Island if, and then they find the ghost here. Oh, they've already come across real stuff before. So I
I
think
feel.
them double dipping on the real thing kind of damages it in a way.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately that in of itself is something I would attribute more to being the fault of this film than Zombie Island, because Zombie Island came out first.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
agree.
all right. I guess now we shall go to our summary and ratings, starting with Springs.
Oh boy. Let's start with my subjective. I think this is a fine movie. I was surprised how short it was, being that I haven't seen it in a very long time. I really like the vibe of it, the whole October, fall feel. Um, I think it was pretty well done overall. I don't. It might be nostalgia glasses kind of thing for Zombie Island, but I think Zombie Island is definitely better. Um, More so, possibly the budget. But this one was overall fine, and it went by pretty quick. I wasn't, bored at any point. It was entertaining. And the voice cast, I think, I mean, Tim Curry being added in, nice little enjoyment there of familiarity that I know him from. And yeah, so 6.5. I don't hate it. It's it's good. Um, Objective, definitely lower in the budget thing. Um, by the look of the animation, there are some the lighting shading. Um, I don't know another word for it, but like that element of this animation is so missed to me from Zombie Island, and just the nighttime look or the daytime look or the fire scene I pointed out, or just things like that, where the coloring of the characters doesn't change one bit, is a little annoying to me. Um, but the voice acting is good. I think Scott Ian's doing Shaggy over Billy West. There is slight difference, but I think it's still covered totally fine. Um, Ben Ravencroft, I think overall pretty good. I like that he sticks through the whole movie, and it's not like he disappears for 20 minutes and comes back and it's like, oh yeah, I know this guy, but what happened to him? Kind of thing. Like he's constantly there, which I think is good. Gives him more of a safety around the gang, so his twist at the end is a little more hitting. Let's see. The music, I think the Hex Girl songs are pretty good. There doesn't seem to be as much background kind of tunes or score as there was in Zombie Island, but I think it's still fine. Um, what else? Writing wise, I think it's pretty well written overall, of the structure of the gang's involvement and Ravencroft and the town, and the connection of what's going on. I think that's pretty well, and there's some good jokes. There's uh, some good drama. The horror bits I think could be played more, like the whole cherry picker thing needs to be strengthened, or the reason of the witch, the fake one to go with, and just I think it needs to be, since New Year's Eve we brought this up. I think it needs to be tighter, but it's already a really short movie, so I don't know how they'd cut around that. Um, but decent, and I'm matching my subjective score. I give it a 6.5.
Crimson.
All right. I will go with my subjective. Echo, 6.5. uh, I enjoy it. I think a good chunk of it is nostalgia and just my enjoyment of Scooby-Doo as a franchise. I've watched a lot of Scooby-Doo. If this was my first Scooby-Doo thing, it would probably be like a 5.5 or 6. But my nostalgia is bumping it up a little bit. So 6.5 is where I'm at. It's still enjoyable. Objectively, I think the animation took a hit compared to the previous film, but in isolation, I still don't think it's great. I brought up an example, which will be in the socials, of Fred with 7 parts that are outside the line of coloring, and that's just persisted through the whole film. There's several parts where you can just pause and see that the color is outside the lines, and it's not an artistic choice. It's just a rushed aesthetic incident. And I agree with Sprinks. The lighting is less played with how it interacts with them, but that is comparing it to Zombie Island. But just in this, I think the lighting's fine on its own because not every cartoon has lighting interact like it did in Zombie Island. Zombie Island stood out as being pretty good in that department. So I think it's just fine here. I think all the voice acting's fine. I think the cherry picker thing was too much for me of a explanation. It didn't do a good job at all because you would just see it, and being in front of the moon, absolutely would see it. So I'm not a fan of that. I think Ravencroft's like 180 to bad guy is fine. You can have characters do that, but his motivation was quite lacking. And I was sitting on whether or not that's an objective or subjective issue with him, because you could just have a crazy guy. You could that could be the character trait of a villain, is just they're crazy. So I think that's what I'm going to label him under, even though I find that disappointing for a character that could be more compelling. I think objectively that's fine. The magic, though, I find inconsistent, and I gave a whole story on that. So I think the magic is damaging. I think Scooby and Shaggy got little scratches, little nicks, calling the Hex Girls witches instead of vampires. Even though I get the practicality of writing why, because then you'd have to explain the vampire stuff, and it's just added fluff for the gag. Um, so I think it's damaging for them. But in large, I think this is decent. There are some conveniences with the buckle book thing, because I had issues with that because the book wasn't real, and if it was real, it never came into play either. The buckle of a book that we don't know if it exists led to the real book, and I take issue with that. So objectively, I am giving this a 7.
All right. Guess that leaves me. Uh, I'll do sub first. First time viewer. I had a lot of hype around this movie. Because this is the one that I was told a lot that I needed to. This is one of the films that I needed to watch. Pretty much. This was the Scooby Doo movie that I was recommended the most. Even more above the James Gunn live action stuff. This was the one that's always been recommended to me. Um, so did it live up to the hype? I definitely had fun with it. Um, I think I'm at an 8.5 subjectively. I had a lot of fun. Um, it's definitely one of those films where I I guess there's a lot of personal things that go into for me. It's taking place around Halloween. It's got the Autumn Fest stuff. It's got good music. Um, I enjoyed the interplay between all the characters, and I have a specific nostalgia binder for the Scooby Doo gang in general. So there's a lot of you have to work very hard to get me not to like stuff with the Scooby-Doo gang. And if you want references of what not to do, just go watch Velma, or rather watch our coverage of it. I'm sure you'll enjoy that more. Um, so yeah, I think I'm at an 8.5 subjectively. I had a lot of fun with it. Um, Objectively, I agree with a lot of it's been said. Um, I think the Cherry Picker is probably the biggest, one of the biggest world building hits in terms of getting as just a quick like explanation out of that they don't want the audience to think too much about because there's a lot of holes with it. Uh, I think the the story behind the town wanting to do the witch I actually quite liked. Um, I do think there's a lot of conveniences in the plot. Again, uh, we're relying on a gopher leading Scooby to the buckle, which leads to a book that's not even the book that we come across. So there's definitely a lot of plot issues going on. We got some. This is a plot armor during the final showdown for sure. One instance that I really didn't like is didn't really cover this in the coverage, but when Velma says, signals for Fred and Daphne to go get the book. They both grab onto him, and neither of them reach for the book, and he just kind of flies out of them. I didn't like that because they didn't go for the book. Um, so there are some nicks to go around here, uh, and I've been kind of slowly talking myself down from where I was initially as a score for this film. Um, I think the world building with the town is fine. The magic is inconsistent. I think the plot has a lot of conveniences within it, but it functions to get from one thing to the next. There's a lot of elements just to keep the plot moving forward. So it's very linear, not very many twists or turns. Outside of obviously the Ben Ravencroft thing. Ben Ravencroft is a character and a villain. It's pretty straightforward. Manipulative egomaniac is what I've been saying because I think that's what he is. Um, I also have labeled the lack of motivation issue under a little bit under subjective. I think that would have probably tuned up the movie a little bit for me. And we have Velma siphoning maybe too many character traits from the other people around her. Um, I'm at a 6.5. I do think this is for me as far as a writing standpoint. I think it's a little bit tighter than Zombie Island. For example, it's not as egregiously convenient for me, like in the use of animals, because the cats lead them to a bunch of different plot elements, whereas here the gopher just happens to lead them to the buckle, and the buckle leads to one thing else. It felt like a MacGuffin, because that's what its plain face value is, but I still think it's a little bit better executed. So, in I guess contrast to everyone else, my objective scores are going to be a bit higher than Zombie Island, so I'm at 6.5.
Okie dokie. Pretty much very close amongst us all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was at a 7, but I am moved down a little bit. Uh, that being said, is there anything else, gentlemen, before I read us out?
What caused it to drop?
Um, I think what caused the drop was Velma's siphoning things. I was at a 7 most of the film because I think everything was right. I think once you pointed out Velma was taking other people's like normal character traits, I have a bit of an issue with that. That does put a nick a little bit onto the other characters a little bit more.
That Fred and Daphne
Um,
were very sidelined.
yeah,
Mhm.
and mind you, I'm fine with them being sidelined. It's just you can't then just you still can't absorb their character traits like you're fucking Kirby, you know. Uh, so yeah, that's what moved it down for me.
That's all I have.
Springs.
That's it for me.
All right. Well then, audience, thank you for listening. Whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, Good Pods, Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Samsung. And if you happen to be on our visual side of things, be it YouTube or Rumble, thank you for listening and watching there. And Feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. As always, I've been a geeky writer,
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Springs.
and we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.